Only if you want to get rid of them. We're doing a table with the Efficiency Mains homeowner, but if we take a break, I have the booklets for home charging that I'd like to give you guys, and it'll be available at that Project Grace thing as well. So take a smoke break, but I'm not gonna go smoke.
Hey, Rachel, were we supposed to have X number of people in person on the board tonight?
And no, we've got, this is unusual circumstances given the cold and the snow.
Okay, that sounds like a good reason.
Yeah, you don't have much insulation on top of your head.
That's true.
All right, we still have a couple of minutes. I usually go by that clock over there for another minute or two. Just to explain to the folks in the room, thank you also for being here, that we've just got a couple more minutes, but we also need to wait to make sure that we actually have a quorum.
That makes 4. We got 4 right now.
Jen, you look like you're calling in from outer space.
That would probably be easier. I always have a hard time finding the link to call in to this meeting. I don't know if that's just me or it's probably just me.
No, I went to the town website and logged in. I didn't see one.
Yeah, this is Rick. I went through the town website too, because I mean, it'd be good. It'd be nice if an invite was sent out the day of the meeting, so that it's like, because I get 4,000 emails, you know what I mean? And I searched by planning board and I actually had like 60 of those.
Mhm.
I think we do have it on
It's on
the invite, but I'll start sending it out day of as well.
Thanks for that helpful redundancy.
All right, and thank you all for being here. The meeting will come to order. Just as a reminder, this is a hybrid meeting. There are folks on Zoom as well as people here in the room. As you just heard a couple of questions, people can view this either on YouTube or on Zoom, and the information for that connection is indeed on the agenda and is on the town website. Let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is Doreen on downstairs?
Yes, she is.
All right, Doreen, if you are on, could you please call the roll? Is she able to call it?
I don't see her.
All right, Doreen is not listed yet as a panelist, so I will call the roll. Rick Meinking,
Here.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
Jen Ladd,
Here.
Rick DuPerry,
Here.
Karen Shoup,
Here.
Chad Reed,
Here.
and Rachel Hendrickson. And I am here. Let the record show, and we are being recorded, correct?
Yes.
All right, so if Doreen is having problems taking notes, this is all being recorded. We have a full board. And welcome. The next item is the approval of the minutes. There are 2 sets of minutes. The first set is
I only have one set.
All
One
right,
set.
great. All right, I just have 2 copies.
There you go.
All right, that does it. The first set is for January 10th. Before I ask for a motion, are there any changes or amendments? Please raise your hand if you're on Zoom and you have a change, if you're a board member.
I see Roger's got his hand.
Roger?
Yes, and this might get resolved with item 6. But in the minutes, it states that IDEX has 289,000 square feet. And I think at the last meeting, when I raised a question, because I was confused as to what the total square footage was going to be of the total build out. And I thought either the consultant or the developer said that there were going to be something like 400,000 plus square feet. I don't know how critical that is in the minutes, but I was going to raise that in item 6, so we can let that go if you wish to, because I still don't know what the total square footage is going to be for the total build out.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes,
in section 8 of the minutes, it does state, Roger, that it's 114,000 square feet for the phase 1. So that's really what this project was reflecting.
Exactly, but at the last board meeting, I understood the 114, and at the last our last meeting on this topic, the second the expansion, I think, was for 289,000 square feet or something like that. That's what it was noted on the expansion.
I believe that was the
Which led me-
total with both phases, Roger, and I see Al Palmer nodding his head, so the 114 would be in addition. The 289 would be the total between the second phase and the current phase we're reviewing.
And for what it's,
And I
that's
think-
how I remember the conversation, Roger, because I think I recall you asking that question and asking if it was going to be around 400, and it was clarified that it was the 289 number, or whatever that
Oh, okay.
200,000 plus number is.
Okay, so it's 289 is what the total is.
275 to 300.
all right, so Roger, do you think the minutes truly reflect that?
I guess so.
All right, thank you. Any other changes, corrections, amendments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 10th.
So move, Madam Chair.
Rick Meinking moves. Second? Somebody online, please.
This is Rick Perry. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Doreen, could you call the roll?
I can
Okay.
do roll call since she's looks like she's got a speaker.
Here, excuse me, aye.
Yes.
You're gonna have to hit the green button on the speaker. We can't hear you online.
Roger Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Dupere,
Yes.
Mr. Ladd,
Yes.
Ken Troop,
We have we've already done the 5. We have, all of us are here tonight.
all right.
All right, that's unanimous. The minutes have been approved. The first item on the agenda is a consent item, KDK Realty LLC. Requests a site plan review for Higas Parkway, assesses map R4, lots 14A and 14B.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So KDK is requesting site plan approval as part of an amendment to an existing contract zone on a property located at the intersection of Haggis Parkway and Gateway Boulevard. The amendment would remove a commercial use designation from 2 lots, allowing the applicant to construct 2 new apartment buildings. The town council approved the contract zone amendment back in November, and that has been since recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds. And at its December meeting, the planning board moved this item to a consent item, and staff has worked with the applicant and their team and is satisfied that all remaining plan elements have been addressed, meaning the site plan can be considered for approval tonight. Some of these items were stormwater, erosion and sedimentation control, as well as adding the sidewalk to the existing site plan. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for KDK? Sir, what we really need to know is, are you in agreement that with the town of Scarborough and the staff, that all of the conditions have been met and you're ready or discussed and you're ready to meet those conditions?
Yes, agreed. Rick Meek with Teradyne Consultants, and we're just here to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, thank you. As we've discussed in the past, a consent agreement, a consent option is really set up so that we can be clear on the last few details of an application that really is ripe for approval, or at least for voting on. And if the staff in the town of Scarborough is happy and the developer is happy, the next thing to do is to ask the public if they have any additional comments that they wish to make. I don't see anybody raising their hands here. Is there anybody online? Do we actually have?
I am
We
not seeing
do.
any of the attendees on Zoom raising their hands.
All right, thank you. I declare the public comment meeting over and we will go to a vote. Doreen? Excuse me. I probably should read the motion, shouldn't I? Okay, I move to approve the project titled Scarborough 48, proposed by KDK Realty as depicted on the plan set prepared by Teradyne Consultants, dated 1/21/22, with the following findings and conditions. Findings. The proposed site plan application includes the construction of 48 dwelling units within 2 new buildings on the remaining undeveloped lots within the development abutting Higas Parkway. The proposal is in the Higas Parkway zoning, HPZ district, and subject to a contract zone agreement. Conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall A, provide a copy of their final DEP permit to the planning department. B, provide approval documentation from the Scarborough Sanitary District and Portland Water District. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 2, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall ensure A, the approved building address numbers number 3 or number 4 Gateway Boulevard shall be the only numbers displayed on the buildings. B, the site is permanently stabilized or appropriate measures in place for erosion and sedimentation control as confirmed by the town. 3, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan that shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 4, prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall coordinate a pre-construction meeting. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the planning department. All plan modifications are to be completed prior to scheduling the pre-construction meeting. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second it.
All right, second from Rick Meinking. Does the board have any final question about concerning this motion? All right, in that case, let us go to a vote. Doreen?
Rachel Henriksen. Yes. Rick Meinking,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes,
Rick Perry,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Rachel,
Yes.
I don't know about the others, but I didn't see the motion. It didn't appear on the screen.
I did read it. We all had copies. Do we consistently put it on the screen?
I didn't think we did.
I can certainly
I
pull
think
the
it's
other ones
been,
up, Roger, if you'd like, as we go through the meeting, if there are additional motions by the board, but where it was read into the record, I guess I didn't know that was the expectation, but we can certainly do that.
yes, and I think we've done it sometimes in the past and sometimes not. In this case, in general, I think it's actually the most important that the board is clear and understands what's in it, and the applicant is clear and understands what the approval means. So yes, as Jay said, we can try and put that up from now on. You comfortable, Roger?
Pardon me?
Are you okay? Are you okay with that? Putting it up from
Sure,
now on?
yes, yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you. The next item, item number 6, AZ Corporation requests a site plan review for Lot 25, manufacturing facility within the Innovation District subdivision, Assessors map U52, Lot 25. Staff, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So IDEX is here requesting a site plan review for a manufacturing research and development facility on Lot 25 of the Innovation District at the Downs. The project would involve construction of approximately 114,000 square foot structure with associated parking and landscaping and utilities. Since the January 10th Planning Board meeting, the applicant has addressed a majority of staff's comments, and the remaining items are quite minor and could be addressed as conditions of approval should the board see fit. And staff has prepared a draft motion to this effect for the board's consideration. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Eric. And for the applicant, Mr. Palmer.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Al Palmer from Goral Palmer on behalf of IDEX by Zoom or YouTube. Dana Fortier from IDEX is on the Zoom call. Jamie LaMontagne, Annette Talbot from the architectural firm as well. At the last meeting, we presented the project to the board, so I'm not going to go over that again. Be happy to answer any questions. We have provided 2 responses to comments outlining our response to the majority of the comments received from both the board and from staff, both town staff, the third-party engineer, and the traffic consultant. And as Eric indicated, the remaining comments are very minor in nature, and we believe we could satisfy those as a condition of approval. A couple of the points that the board had requested at the last meeting. One was the treatment of the area outside the Phase 1 building. Predominantly to the south of the building, there's going to be a large meadow area, and we've clarified that that will be a meadow. There'll be a minor area of lawn associated immediately adjacent to the driveways, but the majority of it will be in a lawn condition. And we have stipulated that all of the meadow be predominant outside of the detention basin or the retention basin will be a 50% conservation mix and a 50% wildflower mix. We addressed all the other staff comments in our January 13th packet, and we are happy to answer any questions from the board.
Thank you. This is an item that's subject to public comment. Is there any member of the public who would care to comment? If you are online, if you would use the raise your hand function.
I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand at this point, Madam Chair.
All right, then the public comment period is over. Let's turn to the board for what should be basically our final shot at comments. Rick, would you like to go first?
Sure. I assume you have the latest round of staff comments and the egress issue and the sidewalk and trailhead and all that. No problems with that.
Correct.
Can you answer the question on the lights being installed in the expanded parking lot? Will these be on, or is that after the second phase comes on? I guess is what.
Those lights would be installed at the time that those parking spaces are
Okay.
constructed.
Because it is part of the egress. So that's the answer I was looking for.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I see no issues with any of the compliance on our site plan ordinance. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Roger? Roger, do you have any additional questions at this time?
You're muted, Roger.
Yeah. No, I don't have any further questions. I just want to thank the applicant for being so thorough in their presentations, and look forward to seeing the project go forward.
Thank you. Rick DePerry?
Yeah, I'd like to just say they did a great job of presenting all the information, and I don't have any additional questions either at this time.
Thank you. Jen Ladd?
Beyond the just last minor items that were brought up in the staff and peer review comment letters, I don't have any additional questions or input, and thank the applicant and look forward to this coming online here.
Thank you. Karen Shoup?
Yeah, I mean, I think the applicant has addressed all the concerns that we had previously brought up, so I don't have any questions.
Thank you. And Chad?
Yeah, no additional questions here. Thank you so much.
All right. I have no additional questions. I do have, I guess, one brief comment. First of all, I really appreciate the landscaping that you're doing. It's varied. It's not kind of monotonous, but instead there's a real variety to what's going in there. I did have a question about the height of the trees in the cul-de-sac in the island, but knowing that you folks are going to take care of that rather than the town, that's helpful. And I too want to thank the attention that you've paid to this in terms of the details and working with the staff. Saying that, I have a draft motion prepared, which I will read now. I move to approve the project titled Lot 25 Manufacturing Facility proposed by IDEX Real Estate Holdings LLC as depicted on the plan set prepared by Goral Palmer dated 1/12/22 with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the proposed site plan application includes the construction of an approximately 114,659 square foot research and development and manufacturing facility. The project is located at the cul-de-sac terminus of Innovation Way. The project is in the Crossroads Plan Development CPD zoning district and is located on lot 25 of the Innovation District. Conditions: prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall A, revise the plan set to address the remaining staff review comments in the memo dated 1/31/22. B, revise the plan set to address remaining traffic solutions comments provided in a memo dated 1/25/22. C, revise plan sets to address remaining Atlantic Resource Consultants comments provided in a memo dated 1/25/22. D, pay impact fees of $12,870 for Route 1 at Higas Parkway and $18,226 for Dunstan Corner, totaling $31,096. This shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Department. 2, the building shall be addressed as 240 Innovation Way. 3, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide final signage plan. This shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Department. 4, prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall coordinate a pre-construction meeting. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the Planning Department. All plan modifications are to be completed prior to scheduling the pre-construction meeting. Is there a second?
I second it, Madam Chair.
Rick Meinking seconds. And I call for a vote. Doreen?
Rachel Hendrickson,
Yes.
Rick Meinking,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
Richard Dupere,
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's unanimous. And welcome to Scarborough.
Right. Thank you very much.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and also members of the board and town staff, I'd just like to also thank you for all your help. Been a smooth process and we're excited about the project and coming to Scarborough. So again, thanks for all the support.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just ask an administrative question. I was sharing my screen and I'm not sure if that was coming through to those who are in Zoom world or not.
It is
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
We'll keep you on for another day, Jay.
Item number 7, Crossroads Holdings LLC requests a preliminary subdivision review for Higas District Subdivision, Higas Parkway, Assessors Map R052, Lot number 4. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Crossroads Holdings is proposing to subdivide a property that is part of the approved master plan of the Town Center North and Haggis District at Scarborough Downs. The final product of that plan would be a mix of commercial development with office, restaurant, light retail, and/or hotel uses. On this portion of the Downs property, this proposal consists of subdividing into 2 lots and construction of a new public street that will intersect with Haggis Parkway and eventually connect to the rest of the Downs. The application primarily serves to allow the applicant to build a stream crossing that is permitted by the state DEP. I believe it's July through September later this year. That road will dead end at this point until a Town Center North subdivision can be proposed and connect the 2 districts in the entire Downs. Staff's comments primarily revolve around that future connection of the roadway, the detailing of it, and required improvements to the Haggis intersection. That's part of the applicant's traffic movement permit issued by Maine DOT, as well as some stormwater implications. And with that, I'll hand it back over to the board.
Thank you. Dan?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Dan Bacon here on behalf of Crossroads Holdings. I'm joined by Drew Gagnon of Goral Palmer, our lead civil engineer on the plan. In terms of this preliminary subdivision application, I think at least some of the board members, or maybe the majority, were on the board at the time. It may look a little bit familiar to you. About 18 or 20 months ago, pandemic time, you kind of lose track of months, but we were before the board with a larger subdivision that included this road segment, these lots, but also went into the town center area design at that time. That was primarily to activate the WEX office building and some associated development. Obviously, that didn't move forward, and we tabled the preliminary subdivision application. Since that time, other activities have occurred, and we're now kind of ready to come back to the planning board for this initial segment of road coming in from Haggis Parkway. This plan here shows actually the Haggis District Master Plan that you approved as part of, in advance of that preliminary subdivision. The Haggis District Master Plan was approved at the same time the Town Center North Master Plan was approved. So to give you a little bit more context, this is our overall project-wide master plan. We update it as new development happens. We've actually added the IDEX site plan you just approved in the Innovation District. And I've highlighted the approximately 20-acre area we're talking about this evening. It's the area that fronts the Haggis Parkway, and it would consist of a new road segment and really kind of the gateway to the Downs project from Haggis Parkway. So we're really initiating this subdivision at this point in time for a few reasons, one of which is to build the first road segment into the town center to accomplish that infrastructure in a specific period of time. So when we were before the board 18 or so months ago, we also were before the Maine DEP, the Army Corps of Engineers, and Maine DOT. So we proceeded with those permits for this aspect of the project, even though we slowed down on the subdivision application. And we received Maine DEP approval for, I'm just going to jump to the next slide, for the road design for the stormwater that manages the new road proposed from Haggis Parkway across the stream. We also received DEP approval for the wetland crossing that you see in the middle of the screen, and most importantly, the stream crossing of Willowdale Brook to get from Haggis Parkway into kind of the core of the Downs. We also received Army Corps of Engineers for those approvals. Coupled with that, we worked with Maine DOT on establishing the control of access location. DOT regulates access points along Haggis Parkway. And as you see here, these red boundaries set the location where we can connect with Haggis Parkway. So DOT approved that location, the town reviewed it at the same time. It also got included in our our traffic movement permit that approved the offsite improvements for Haggis Parkway. The other component that was approved by Maine DOT and Army Corps and DEP is the specific location for the stream crossing. There's actually a conservation easement that applies to the majority of the Willowdale stream corridor. That's the kind of rectangular geometry you see here. And within those red boundaries is our approved break in that conservation easement for the road alignment. So those were all approved. So really what we're seeking through this subdivision application is to proceed on the town approvals to lay out and approve this segment of road and create two larger lots. Lot 1 is on the north side of the road. It's about 6 acres in size. And then lot 2 is on the south side. It's around 8 acres in size. Those two lots would of course come to you for site plan before they're developed. They also would go before Maine DEP before they are developed, because we need to get approval for stormwater design for those lots. This is very similar to an item later on your agenda, the Costco site where we got a lot approved. We built the road infrastructure, but then marketed the lot before proceeding with permitting with the town and DEP for approvals of those lots. That's really what we're seeking the discussion this evening. And then into final review is the ability to proceed with our state permits on building this segment of road that actually can't generate any traffic or generate any development until we come back to you with site plan and with DEP approvals on the different lots. We're not proceeding with the road past the stream because we're still working with the town council, the downtown committee, and we'll be coming to the board with an updated plan for the town center later this spring, could be late winter, to lay out that area of the project. But the design of this road starts short of the town center. It just goes over the stream in an alignment that we have to abide by, given our other approvals. And then we would temporarily dead end the road until we come to the board with further subdivision and application for that part of the project. The timing piece that matters for us this spring and summer is that we actually can't make the stream crossing improvements any time of the year. We have to specifically make them in the summer season, the low flow season of the stream. So we have a short construction window to build the stream crossing, or else we wait another calendar year. So that's another key component to proceeding with the board now this winter with a subdivision, so that we're in position to start that road construction in the spring and summer and comply with the environmental requirements for the stream crossing. I think with that, that gives you kind of an overview of the other jurisdictions and their approvals and why we're proceeding now with your review, recognizing we need to work with the town and DOT on thresholds for the offsite improvements for when development occurs on the two lots, as well as prior to final subdivision review, come back to staff and the board with a general alignment on the road extension into the town center, recognizing that'll be conceptual and that will come to you with finer plans once we have a subdivision design for that. We expect that we can do that pretty quickly as we're working with the town council on the town center plan right now. So we can come back with you with that information before any final approvals. But I think with that, I'll let Drew talk about any engineering pieces that I missed, and we're happy to answer questions after that.
Thank you, Dan. Drew Gagnon with Goral Palmer. Dan did a great job with the overview here. So I'm going to try not to repeat them. I'm going to dive into just a little bit more of the details of what we're proposing here for the Higas District subdivision. So this is our engineering drawing of the layout plan. I just want to quickly, again, go over some of the details. So we're proposing a 1,250 foot long roadway coming from Higas Parkway, which is on the left side of your screen, to just past and just on the east side of Willowdale Brook. With that, we're proposing an 8-foot wide multi-purpose path that would connect to the future town center that Dan was mentioning and connect to pedestrian improvements along Higas Parkway that will be also in the future per our main DOT TMP. So that 8-foot wide path is going to run all along through the brook and all the way down the south side of lot 1 and terminate at the right of way, and basically the intersection connection for future pedestrian connection. Along with that, we have a 8-foot wide plus or minus center island as kind of the gateway treatment as we enter the downs. So our goal there was to match the Payne Road side and the Route 1 side, where we have a large center island with a tree-lined boulevard on either side and down the middle of it. And really that kind of that signature appearance that you're entering the down. So we've continued that from Route 1 and Payne Road over here to Higas Parkway, and we're real excited about that. In addition, we have shown 2 entrances to lot 1, which is on the north side of the proposed road, and lot 2, which is on the south. With these entrances, we're showing left turn lane pockets. And there was a comment in the staff and peer review comments relative to some queuing for these left turn pockets. We designed this road really conservatively, obviously not knowing what's in these with what's going into these sites quite yet. We want to be conservative with our left turn lane queuing. So we're happy to provide those calculations and any other supporting data to warrant these left turn lanes that we think is a good design here. This is the landscaping plan I have up here. If we need to go back to it, it just shows some of the trees I was discussing along the center island on outsides of the road. As far as the utility plan, the dashed lines are the existing utilities in Higas Parkway, and the bold lines are the proposed utilities as part of this subdivision. As you can see, we're essentially isolating this area from only serving off Higas Parkway and not using any of the existing or planned utilities really on the rest of the downs parcel. We don't need to connect to anything on the downs from a utility perspective. Everything from a capacity can be served from Higas Parkway, which is really good and cost saving for this team. As you can see, we're terminating gas, 8-inch sewer main, 8-inch water main at the lots 1 and 2 entrances, which is right in the middle of your screen. And then red is the overhead power that would be extended from Higas Parkway, and then we'd be going underground to serve the sites. So the existing drainage in this area essentially all slopes to the north and to the east towards Willowdale Brook. Willowdale Brook kind of wraps around the page here, starting at the top, and it flows downstream as it kind of runs around the page corner there. So what we're doing is per our main DEP approved stormwater plan, where we have 1 grass under drain soil filter in the kind of the top left corner of the roadway, which is, as you can see, is treating that shaded blue area. So it's treating most of the roadway, and that's consistent with our permit. Again, our permit was for a much larger area, so this is just one component of it. And this phase worked out where it was just 1 stormwater facility associated with it. So this grass under drain soil filter will discharge into Willowdale Brook by a permit rule we obtained for discharging within 75 feet of a stream. In addition to that, we're proposing the culvert that Dan mentioned. It's a 4.5 foot tall by 11 foot wide steel arch culvert. It's open bottom. So we worked with Maine DEP, we worked with Army Corps, we worked in Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and really developing what that wanted to be. So just off this page here is an impoundment of the stream. So there's an existing crossing right around here, just to the right of the proposed roadway. It's really a failed crossing. So it was an old logging trail, and over the years, it just hasn't been replaced, and it really was very undersized, which created an impoundment upstream of it. So we're proposing this culvert to alleviate the impoundment and really get the water flowing through here. In addition to that, we're proposing reinforced soil slope retaining walls on either side of the roadway. That'll help us limit our impacts to the stream and keep it within 75 feet. And really keep the fills down on that area. So real quickly, the project schedule. So Town of Scarborough permitting, while we're here, anticipated, this first quarter of 2022. The stream crossing construction, which is really the critical piece of this whole application and subdivision that Dan was mentioning, is July 15th to September 30th of any given year. And we really would appreciate it happening in 2022, so we don't have to wait to 2023 to do this construction portion. And our construction team would like the roadway completion in spring, summer of 2023, really kind of dependent on weather dependent and really manpower. And as Dan mentioned, we connection to the downs in the future town center, which would include a Payne Road connection by 2026, which is per our main DOT permit. So again, we're seeking preliminary subdivision approval to continue our permitting process. We do acknowledge all the comments. We have read them. We're excited to work with the town, the peer reviewers, and certainly more coordination on additional details added to the plan, as well as discussing any of them and more further. We're certainly happy to do that, and we'll definitely address those prior to final subdivision. I do want to reiterate the kind of the control points that we have. So the roadway and layout is essentially frozen, where we have to connect to the Haggis Parkway at this location. We have to cross the stream at this location. So we're really just looking for the roadway construction in those portions and all of the environmental constraints. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions and look forward to the future discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. This is an item that's open for public comment. Is there anyone online who would like to comment? Please use the raise your hand function.
Not seeing any yet. Still none.
All right, I declare the public comment period over and open up to the board for questions and comments. In this time, I will call on volunteers to go first. If you're on the board and you want to go first, please raise your hand.
Oh, this is Rick Ducari. I don't know how to raise my hand, so I'm just going to jump right in.
Okay.
I could probably figure it out, but I just have a quick question and then I'll be done. On the agenda, I saw the preliminary subdivision review and I looked through the packet and it's really kind of a preliminary road review, right? So would they be coming back? I mean, this is just to get them moving so that they can get their road in while the weather's, favorable and I understand why they're doing it, but they will be coming back with a preliminary subdivision review at a later date, right? When we actually have a subdivision to look at? Or am I the only one missing something in my packet?
No, they are basically, you're right in one respect that we are looking at the road and how the road is going to be built to enable building to go on either of the lots. Once there is somebody who wants to build on those lots, they would then come to us with the information and a full site plan on what would be on the lot. So we're talking right now, or the Crossroads is talking about starting the building of the road and the access to the two lots, plus the stream crossing that would ultimately allow the access to the heart of the downtown. Is that helpful?
That was very helpful, Rachel. You did an excellent job and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You did such a good job. I have no further questions. Thank you very much for that explanation. Though.
All right. Comments from other members of the board, questions? Rick Meinking.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions regarding the utilities. From the plans, it looks like your light poles in the island there, as you enter in, are going to be within that median, and your actual electricity is coming and following the tree line to the south of that road, correct?
Correct, yep.
All right, what is your plan then to get from that side of the road to the other side of the road to get to that lot that's going to be part of the review down the road?
Yeah, so both lot 1 and 2, so both on the north and south side will be fed underground from the utility poles on the south.
Okay, so you're gonna run something under the roadway to get to that north lot.
Correct. We're going to run some conduit stubs for that.
Okay, and then you're bringing it down, and I assume you're not bringing any utilities across the river, the
That's-
watershed. right?
That's correct. Only under drains.
Okay,
Yep,
so everything beyond this will be fed from the downtown district.
correct.
All right. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Jen, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Drew, you touched briefly on left turn lane pockets, but I'm pretty sure that you were talking about on the road to be named. First of all, looking forward to this road getting a name. I feel like that'll be helpful for a lot of people. Understand there's, some more work to be done there, but so the road off of Haggis Parkway that will serve these 2 lots, the plans show opposing left turn lane pockets there, which makes sense. But you said, or maybe you didn't say, I'm asking, are these left turn lane pockets, you're going to plan for these as part of the road construction in general, right?
Correct. So the left turn lane pockets into lots 1 and 2, as shown, are what we would be proposing to be constructed. As part of the analysis, we've been requested that we show some queuing analysis. So we'll have to make some assumptions on the 2 lots and then run the queuing analysis based on what we have information from the through movement and the left turns to see if they're warranted. Really, it's just to make sure we have a big enough left turn pocket for what could possibly go on the lot. Is it kind of what we're getting down to?
Sure, that makes sense. And further challenged by the fact that you may or may not know what that's going to be yet. I was wondering if you could also, can you talk a little bit about the left turn lane proposed on, it looks like just a single left turn lane into the entrance on Haggis Parkway, and I'm most interested in the timing of that. So like, does that require any additional, it's a little hard to tell from these plans, and perhaps that's because I'm looking at it electronically, but it's a little hard to tell if that is like, do you need to widen Haggis Parkway in this area at all in order to get that in? And whether you do or you don't, what's the timing look like for that or any other off-site work on Haggis Parkway itself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it just step back. I mean, it's relatively confusing with the TMP process that we just went through, but we have a certain date that we have to construct Haggis Parkway offsite improvements. So everything you just mentioned is true. We're going to need to do a little bit of widening, a long left turn lane essentially coming down from the beacon, as well as future signalization of this intersection when it gets to a certain number of trip ends. So to answer your question, the answer is yes, we have to construct all that by a certain date. And we are currently coordinating with the town and the DOT on the actual phasing of that, whether that is now or, again, we have a drop dead date that we have to with the TMP. And again, we're coordinating on exactly what has to happen now. So that left turn lane on Haggis Parkway is going to be constructed no matter what, I guess would be the simple answer to your question.
Okay, and so I think what I'm hearing you say-ish is that you're not quite sure yet about when that will be, and that it will be based on other, as other development progresses. Is that right? Versus some of the other offsite mitigation improvements, Oak Hill intersection, for example, some of those were very targeted and very specific, and were really clearly laid out in your overall sort of 5-year plan.
Yeah, correct. So we really just, it's just a phasing aspect when we start adding traffic to this intersection, what needs to be done. But we obviously are working towards that goal of meeting the TMP and having all of the Haggis Parkway off-site construction done by 2026 or 2025.
Okay, gotcha. And so it was touched upon in the traffic peer review memo, I think, but as part of that, you're obviously going to be laying conduit and doing sort of any subsurface or groundwork for that future signal at this intersection in conjunction with this roadway installation. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. And relative to the traffic engineering comment of laying all the groundwork essentially, so we're not cutting back into this road after we construct it. So that'll be shown on our next set of plans. But yeah, certainly we're going to lay all the conduit and all the, locations for the mast arms and items like that to make sure the design has all been coordinated together.
Great.
And just to make a clarification to the board, we have been in touch with DOT, who has told us that before any buildings on these sites are occupied, any of those TMP improvements would have to be made. So as Drew mentioned, they're going to be working with us on that, but just so the board is aware. So whether that's showing the left-hand turn lane in the area work on Haggis in future submissions, or working on another project that's going to have to get done before any buildings on those lots are occupied.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think my only other question, I noticed on the plans, it looks like you're going to be calling out for, or you'll be installing sort of a temporary hammerhead turnaround at where this road would otherwise dead end. I'm just curious what other notifications or any other signage or anything that you might be implementing in order to prevent people from, like dead end road doesn't connect, something like that. Just to give any advance notice to folks that doesn't actually go through, because I'm not sure, depending on clearing, you may or may not be able to see that from Haggis Parkway itself.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And we certainly look at some signage of some temporary, dead end after call, something to alert any of the public that would be going to one of these two lots in the event that it's not connected yet. Again, we're kind of talking about a time period here that as we're working on the town center development, it's really just a phase of it. But that's certainly a good point that if that, we have the Jersey barriers up and stuff at the end of the road, but some advanced warning, that's a great point that I can look into.
Okay, I think that's all I have at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Roger, I think you have your hand up.
Yes. Just a couple of questions, but I'm assuming that that Drew, you're going to be responding to Traffic Solutions comments, and most of those should not be a problem.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to work with the town and Traffic Solutions on getting them exactly what they need relative to the offsites as well as the internal signage that were presented in the comments.
Okay. And regarding the access to both of those lots, as far as I can tell, there's one access to each lot. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are those fixed, or could those be moved depending on what's going to end up going on those lots?
Our goal here was to place them where we thought would make the most sense. There is a little bit of flexibility, and I'll call it the roadway design to move the entrances. I'm talking about whether it's 50, 60 feet, something like that. Very not noticeable from this scale if you're looking at the plan. And we certainly want it to work with the future site plans that are along these lots. So as we proceed and down the line for the permitting and construction, we're gonna have a better idea exactly where that is, but it's gonna be pretty much where it's shown on the plan, plus or minus 25 feet, something like that.
Okay. And the last question I is, can you provide us any insight as to why there may be a name change to the street from Center Street?
Roger, I can speak to that. So you may or may not remember, but the prior town center north, we called it design, which created the lot for Wex, had a road alignment that went from Haggis Parkway, crossed the stream, and headed almost directly to the Innovation District. So that's why it was contemplated to be named Center Street on this end, because we named obviously the Innovation District street that comes off of Innovation Way, Center Street, and it could be one contiguous roadway. Since that time, we've been working with the Downtown Committee, as well as the Town Council, and we're going to be coming to the Planning Board following Town Council work that we're doing right now with an updated town center plan that's based on a new layout, taking their input into consideration. And so the layout of the town center has changed enough that we think it's highly unlikely this street is going to kind of traverse the town center and not come to an intersection and hit a number of other streets, et cetera. There's another slide.
So you're basically saying for instance, I recall Main Street running off of this earlier Center Street as well. That may change as well.
So this is very high level, but it shows the street that we're talking about in orange, kind of coming in here, and then turning and then intersecting with a north-south street that, you know, is in the vicinity of the existing Downs Road, if you can picture it, and then creating blocks from there. So that's sort of its own presentation, and we're excited to show you as we develop our plans. But we're, in light of this new direction and feedback from the Downtown Committee, we think it's going to look much more like this versus a roadway that ends up directly connecting to way up here. If you can see my cursor, it's hard to see. Maybe you can't. Here, I'll get up the. I'm going to get out the proper tool here. Okay, so right now, Roger, Center Street ends here in the Innovation District. And we think it's highly unlikely that this road here will make it all the way to Center Street as one contiguous street. So that's why we removed the name, and we want to work on a new name for this street segment that's before you for the subdivision.
Okay, I appreciate the insight. I have no further questions. As far as I can tell, this street's going to be pretty much like all the other streets in the complex. And the critical thing is to get that culvert at the stream crossing, get that constructed this summer. So I'm fine with everything.
Thank you. Chad?
The only questions I had were related to the temporary signage for, I guess, a dead end or not a through street. I guess we'll see that at a later point.
Yes, thank you. Karen?
I don't have any questions. All the board members asked a lot of really good ones, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I do have questions. I know you referenced the culvert, and you referenced that you had chatted with wildlife. Is the culvert going to be set up, the crossing of Willowdale going to be set up so that there is space underneath it, the passage of small wildlife?
Yes, we, as part of our state permitting, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, obviously DEP and Army Corps of Engineers reviewed the plans. And Drew, you can describe the width and height, but that was brought up during that process.
Yeah, Rachel. So the width and height, it's 4.5 feet tall and 11-foot span, and that's down to the footing. So we typically set it a little bit higher than where the actual stream bed will be. So we're looking at a clearance of plus or minus 5 feet, all said and done.
Okay. As I recall, at some point in the original discussion around this, when it first came before as a slightly different iteration, there was some discussion about having some sort of a seating arrangement or gathering space, small gathering space around that or near that culvert so folks could stop and look. And I know you have a pathway, I believe it's 8-foot pathway scheduled, but I was wondering if you're still considering putting in some sort of a bench, a place for people to look at to stop and look at the brook.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I meant to talk about that in the presentation and I must have overlooked it. I do remember that, and we had some notes from that, from creating this as a space that could be almost educational to at some point, would be a good opportunity. So we did include some benches on the plan. I believe is on the south and on the north side of the culvert. I have to double check that. We'll make it more obvious on the next round of submittals, but thank you for bringing that to the attention. And we're certainly looking at some sort of arrangement there.
All right, I think I have, I guess as a matter of curiosity, first of all, we haven't seen the center plan. We've seen and agreed upon a master plan that's kind of, in effect, this isn't pejorative, sketchy in scope because it wasn't clear what was going to be happening there and how things were going to go, but there was a conceptual plan. And that conceptual plan, of course, connected the Higas area with Center Street and the Innovation District. And now you're saying that that's going to change and that there's a plan that we haven't seen. Or that you're working on a plan that we haven't seen that would change that. So I guess my question is why do you want us to deal with this change right now when the connection to Center Street and the Innovation District is a perfectly good stopgap without changing the current master plan or saying that there's going to be a change to the master plan that we haven't seen? I'm not sure. Right now, it sounds to me as though you're making extra work for yourself and raising questions in our mind because you're talking about something we don't know about that you may be working on. And it seems to me that there was actually no problem showing this as connecting to Center Street. And then at some point you present us with the town square or the town center design that includes the change. So I'm asking why you thought that was necessary to do what you're doing in terms of that change with Center Street now, instead of waiting.
Well, a couple of things. One is that we're working with the town council on a growth management ordinance exemption process. And as part of that process, we're having a workshop with them next week. I think it's the 9th. And we're going to be presenting a new concept for the town center that shows a new layout that takes cues from the downtown committee's work, takes cues from the feedback we've gotten from the town council. And that would then, following that, we'd come to the planning board with an updated master plan. So I didn't want to stand here this evening and show you a plan that shows the old Center Street that we have designed, that we worked on a year and a half ago. And then a week and a half later, show the council entirely new town center plan. So I wanted to be, straightforward with the board about the old town center plan is being updated. This design doesn't change. We're just going across the stream where we have to and dead ending it immediately. So it works with the old plan, it works with the new plan. We then proceed working with you on extending it past the location you see on this plan. So I wanted to make sure we're headed towards the right plan and that you have the information that I have.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the explanation, which again, you could have come to us with remember, we have this as connecting to going to Center Street all the way up. We are not with this plan changing that, but we want to let you know that subsequently to our work with the town council, we will be coming back to you with a new master plan and this could change.
Sure.
I'm just saying you kind of made extra work for yourself and raised a
Okay.
question with Maine DOT about creating a hammerhead and a street that's not really connected. And then when you show us a connection, it's a connection that's still in discussion. So that then you're asking us to say, oh, sure, we're clear, although none of this might happen because it's still under discussion.
Mhm.
So I said, it seems to me you made extra work for yourself and then raised a question with Maine DOT that wants to see the connection. And a connection that hasn't come to us yet.
Right. Well, their deadline is 4 years from now. So we're still in compliance with their expectations. We just want to do this. The project needs to do this in segments to afford it and to meet timelines in terms of stream crossing. So, but I think point taken, I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's what you're showing us right now basically comports with what you showed us before.
Mhm.
There's more detail. You've got your TMP. We can see where the roads are. We can see how the subdivision is set up. We can see some of the wetlands, some of the problems that we may end up seeing with the site. And then you toss in, and we're going to rename the street because we're no longer going to connect it with Center Street. And by the way, Center Street is probably going to be very different and not connect with the streets that we thought it was going to connect with. So you're asking us to approve a preliminary, granted as preliminary site plan, kind of in a vacuum, when we know that things are going to change and when you really didn't have to make that change. You could have said, we're rethinking naming it the name of Center Street. It could still be the same because we are rethinking all of this, but there are a whole bunch of balls being juggled over here. And dear planning board, just understand that there's so much more going on in back of this discussion than what we have in front of us, which is in a sense, a pretty, I hate to use this word, simple subdivision plan, as simple as anything is, with a project as large as the Downs.
Mhm.
And you're asking us to agree, it's almost though you're asking us to agree with a change that hasn't taken place yet, because you've changed where that street is coming out, and you're still in discussions as to what that would look like. I don't think I had a question in there, but would you like to comment?
I would like to comment that watch the workshop on the 9th because you know the direction of the town center. And we understand the phasing aspects of this and the concerns of DOT and the staff. I think what's going to happen is lot development and the town center plan will kind of catch up to this plan from a construction standpoint. One of our reasons for standing here is we don't build the stream crossing in a month. It's not like we build it in July, it's open in August. We start construction in July. It may be completed by the next July in terms of use. So we're looking at pretty long lead times. And that's why we wanted to kind of come in pieces and to be, working with the board on knowing things are changing beyond your scope, but you're going to be in the loop to know that it's going to be completed to comply with your expectations and DOT's. So that's where the best I can do in terms of where we're at today on this.
Madam Chair, if I
Yeah,
may.
thank you, Jay. If you can take care of this confusion, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'm not sure I can. I have some questions. I think, one of the things where staff, a lot of where our questions came from, and I think the questions I'm hearing from the board are, as I think you or Dan just said, there's sort of all these other activities going on, and it's really trying to understand how do these two lots fit into the overall development of the plan. I think the applicants come forward with, we know where their stream connection needs to be. And for those that haven't been on the board for a while, that is something that was well reviewed. There is sort of that break in the conservation easement. So we sort of know where we're headed to get it to the stream crossing. And so I guess I'm going to lead to a question here to the applicant team. If what I'm really hearing is the main thrust right now is to get to that stream crossing, because we've got a limited time frame in the summer to be able to do that. And I wonder if would it give time for the town to do its job, the planning board to do its review with these lots and understand the connection, if there was consideration to a condition that sort of talks about no further development on these lots until the through connection is understood. We could obviously build that out a little bit more, but I think that's the general thought that I had was, again, understanding that we're really trying to get to the stream crossing in the short term, with there being a lot of balls in the air as to what the long-term connection is. Just sort of wonder how that floats, and obviously they may need to think about that and not have an answer tonight, but it was something that came to mind to try to get to at least what I'm understanding, the first threshold issue of the stream crossing being built this summer. And maybe by the end of summer, we have a full build out connection and we understand everything and we can eliminate that, we can move on with development.
I guess I'm not understanding what's unclear about development on these two lots. I mean, these two lots are being created to comply with the Haggis District Master Plan, which has development expectations, space and bulk for the two lots. They would be served by this road, which would have full infrastructure and access. They're totally separate from the town center across the stream. There's an open space and a conservation area that separates them. So the project's goal is to design and get approved a road that serves those two lots and also provides access to the town center and the rest of the project. And start stream crossing construction this summer and infrastructure construction in the fall. And you'll see through site plan review in the future, if there's end users, what the lot development would be. And you'll also see an updated master plan for the town center, which is beyond the stream. So I guess from the Downs perspective, it's not a lot different than how we've done the rest of the project. We came in for phase one, the Downs Road was approved, came in for phase two, we got approval for town center residential to the north. Same with the innovation district. So it's being designed in the road alignment that's approved by all the other agencies, and we have to cross the stream at that location. So what's off the screen, we'll be coming back to the board with a master plan and a subdivision that won't cause this design to need to be reworked. So
Dan, I think you're answering, you're addressing a concern that we probably actually don't have. I haven't heard concerns about the division of the lots. I haven't heard concerns about the crossing. I haven't heard concerns about the timing. We understand that DOT's conditions on occupancy and the need to have the Haggis Parkway settled, the access settled by that point. You've sort of heard our concerns, which is we've got a big blank space back there that all of a sudden is different from what we've approved, or that's the proposal. And I was offering you a chance to ease that by not changing the name or by simply saying this is unnamed. We have a plan that has these lots on it already that crosses the stream there. This is the flesh out of that plan, and then connects to Center Street. So I don't see, as I said before, I don't see why you've made this more complicated than it needs to be, because you could come back to us, understanding that all along we've said, yep, the town center that's going to be developed, it's going to be different. We got to wait for it. We don't know where everything is going to go. It sounds as though it's possible that on February 9th, there possibly be some decisions made about some of the looks of the development of the town center. And that you might be more ready then to say where this street connects.
Okay.
Right now, we have a perfectly good plan that says it connects to Center Street. And you just come back to us and say that's, given everything that came in between, working with the council, working with the staff, we've changed that. It's now going to do this. So I would suggest, if you want this to move forward as fast as you would like, and I don't hear any concerns from the board about that, that you take us back to what it was before. We could approve the preliminary subdivision tonight with the modification that the name of the street and the ultimate connection will be decided later. And then move on to a final subdivision after we hear from the town council and you folks as to where that center is going. In other words, kind of help you move forward.
Okay.
And that would help us make a decision, help us understand where you're going with it. And by the time the discussions are over with the town council, you may have something different to bring back to us. So is this something that you think works? A preliminary subdivision that basically says we agree to currently keep the Center Street connection until there is a final master plan, or there is a master plan that comes before us, when that could be different. And then I would think we could move forward with the preliminary and ultimately with the final subdivision once there is that clarity. And if it's coming around February 9th, you're not being put at a real disadvantage. That's February 9th is pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm happy to work with the board on proceeding that way. And we'll work with staff before final to make sure we're providing the right submission to proceed.
All right, Roger, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
You're muted, Roger. There you
Yeah,
go.
I just wanted to make a comment on this, Rachel. I'm bothered by what I've just been listening to. I mean, there's a state of flux in the whole downtown district planning. And this to me is not a critical issue, a street name to be determined. I mean, we've seen that before. And I don't see why there's going to be a delay because of this. They have to get this stream crossing constructed. In fact, I would suspect that's what's going to be done, and then the road will come later on. With all due respect, you keep referring to we when you're talking, and I don't agree with this argument, this line of reasoning at this point. I'm not bothered by the lack of a name for a street. I thought Dan explained it very clearly to me. So I just, again, with all due respect, I just think we should move on and get off of this. That's my opinion.
All right, and thank you for that, Roger. And let me say that it wasn't so much the name of the street as what the staff has identified for consideration, and that is the connection of that street. Where is that supposed to connect?
Well, I don't think they know that yet.
I think one of the more important things about that particular comment was that something should be shown on the plans about the connection, and we can have Dan and his team put on there a sort of rough outline of where that connection is proposed right now, kind of based on the graphic that was shown from the whole master plan, and a note with something to the effect of to be connected with the entire Scarborough Downs property in accordance with the TMP by 2026. So I think it's more important to show the connection with the stipulation that the route is not necessarily finalized than to kind of get into the weeds on the particular route at this point. I think the most important part for the town is that that connection is made and that the TMP requirements can be met throughout the process. But there's certainly more room for discussion on that as well.
And
And let me just say for a moment, Jay, is that I think that's what has been said here, that the question is, what is the connection? And at one point, there was a connection. And now we've been asked to, not necessarily to eliminate the connection. That's what's before us, the elimination of that connection. And that was the question I've had. So, yeah, you're right, and I think it can be handled. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just want to be sure that we're all clear that I think the reason why staff has addressed this is one of the standards in the CPD is that we have an interconnected street network. And so, yes, though we know it's likely to connect through, as shown, we don't have that right away. So I think, Mr. Bacon was right, previous proposals have come through and sort of been able to cobble it together, but we've always been connecting at least to the Scarborough Downs Road that goes all the way through the connection. This is the first time we have a stretch road that now doesn't connect. So again, it's staff raised this in light of the zoning standards that are applicable. To that end, I have at least worked on a condition to a draft motion if someone were so inclined that speaks to this element, and I'm happy to share that whenever asked.
Jay, why don't you share that?
I believe it's being shared now, and I'll try to make it bigger. Hang on, operating dual screens. Is that being shown and seen?
It's on one screen.
So Jay, just to be clear, they can show the connection, but they can still have a name change? Or is the name change just insignificant at this point?
I think, Roger, staff can work with our public safety folks and the applicant's team to work on naming. That is one of the pieces of information that are required in the subdivision ordinance that the board's to look at, but certainly as you referenced, that's something we usually defer to our street addressing agent, public safety folks. So that's something staff can work on. So really what the intention of this condition that I just added is to really ensure that we at least understand what a future connection would look like and where it would be, with the full recognition that it may change, right? I mean, that's okay. We do subdivision amendments, site plan amendments all the time. But I think, again, referring back to the zoning standards seeking interconnected streets, the board's job is to be sure that we have something that should, whatever occur, we know at the end of the day, we at least have one plan that makes a connection. And if we can do something better down the road, all the better, right? And we can certainly modify that.
Are you okay with that, Roger?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, are there any more comments from the board? All right, there is a draft motion. I move to approve the preliminary subdivision plan of the Downs Higas District subdivision presented by Crossroads Holdings LLC, conditioned on addressing staff comments as discussed at the January 31st, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Conditions. The connection to the street from Higas Parkway to the existing Downs Road is to be shown on the plan consistent with the approved master plan. Is there a second?
Second,
All right. Doreen, let's call the roll.
Rachel Henriksen,
Yes.
Sorry, I have a quick question. Can we,
Uh,
is that appropriate?
Actually, no, we've started the voting. And I already voted yes.
Okay.
Rick Montague,
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
yes.
and Rick Duperi.
Yes.
All right, that's unanimous.
Isn't there
We-
Rachel, isn't there typically a discussion after a motion is made or question? Time for questions. I'm now curious procedurally.
Yeah, well, procedurally, yes. Since nobody on the board had their hands up, and since the motion was on the screen for them to read, I started the process for voting, and by Robert's rules, once the actual voting has started, the time for discussion is over. If you have a specific question that you would like answered, I have no problem giving you the floor right now. And it may, Dan and Drew is still here, so that if you have a question.
I just had a suggestion to an amendment to the condition, but was waiting for the time for discussion. I think it's probably fine and we've already voted, but procedurally, I was just wondering when the time to discuss amendment to the motions is.
I guess you're right. Should have given you a little more time, but at some point, when the discussion seems to have ground to a halt and there is an amendment up for reading, we proceed with the vote. I think it's a lot easier when everybody's in person, because it's easier to see from folks when they're confused or when they have a question, and it's a lot easier for them to raise their hands.
And Jen, we still have to go through final subdivision approval as
Yeah.
well. So there's certainly a lot of details to be ironed out before we get to that point.
That's fine. Thanks.
Yeah, the motion actually calls for that ironing out with the staff. So there is certainly more opportunity to weigh in prior to final approval. Number 8, Barry and Francis Tibbetts request a private way amendment for 12 Berry Road to add 2 lots and their respective driveways to Abbey Lane, Assessors Map R21, Lot 2B.
Thank you, Rachel. So Barry and Francis Tibbetts are in front of the board with a waiver request for a private drive. The board has authority to waive private drive standards, including the regulation that only 6 driveways locate on a private drive. The board previously approved a waiver to extend Abbey Lane in 2016, and the current proposed waiver would allow 2 additional driveways on Abbey Lane. It currently has 11, I believe, and with these 2 additions, it would have 13 in total. One of the 2 driveways would be for an existing home that currently is addressed on Berry Road, and the other would be for a driveway for a unbuilt lot that would be split from that lot. Owned by the Tibbetts family. And a support letter from Abbey Lane's owners, the Johnson family, in favor of approving the private way amendment has been provided. Staff comments are relatively minor. Since the private way standards state that the town engineer has to sign off on plan details, we are currently of the belief that the waiver may be approved. And a draft motion with conditions relating to the engineering requirements has been provided. So with that, I will defer this waiver request back to the board.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Yes, good evening. My name is Owens McCullough, civil engineer with Sebago Technics, here tonight on behalf of Barry and Francis Tibbetts. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of the board. Barry is in the audience with me tonight. The Tibbetts own a parcel of land at 12 Berry Road. That's the total blue line that you see on the outside. Let's see if my cursor will go all the way around it. They own this parcel right here. Their house is right here in brown. They currently have their driveway directly off Berry Lane that comes in. The Tibbetts' daughter and son-in-law is looking to occupy the new lot. They have enough land with a small acquisition from two abutters. One comes from the Johnson family and the other from the Cunninghams. And that would give them enough net land area to create this lot that would be owned and built upon by the Tibbetts' daughter and son-in-law. Because we would need to move have the driveways off of Abbey Lane, and we would relocate the one that was off of Berry Road off to Abbey Lane. That requires us to come in front of the planning board because it's technically an amendment to the approval. We're not actually proposing any new construction on the roadway, but it also does require that the board grant a waiver. And Angela laid it out really well in the staff memo. But basically, the way the ordinance is written, if you have more than 6 lots on a private way, then you have to seek a waiver, or you would have to upgrade the road to the current town standards. In this case, we've laid out some basis for why we think the waiver would be granted. It's similar in nature to the prior waivers for the project. Mostly that in this case, these 2 driveways would be located at the very front of Abbey Lane. The development is very consistent with the general area. It doesn't add an additional burden onto the road or any of the other landowners on the road. And in some ways, it takes a driveway off of Berry Road, which is more of a primary road in that area, puts it onto the secondary road. So it gets that driveway more in keeping with, I think, the goals of having roads off of the private ways. One thing that came up on this, and Angela brought it up, and she's 100% right, is it works well, but in the original private way, there's a fire tank down here at boy, it's really hard to see this. Let's see if I can zoom in. There's an underground fire tank that's down here in this location, and for whatever reason, the original private way plan never had an easement that we could find that was created. So Angela put in her notes, and we will create an easement for that so that it's official. So we're fine with the review comments by the staff. And if the board's willing to grant that waiver and those staff conditions, we'll make sure we work with Angela and Eric to make sure those are addressed. They're pretty straightforward. We think that the project can be done pretty simply. And it provides an extra house a new house for a family member. Barry, do you have anything you want to add to this, or?
No, great job.
I tried to keep it as short as possible. You had a long one before, and I suspect you have another one.
All right, thank you. This is subject to public comment. Is there any member of the public in the room or online who would care to comment?
I'm looking online, waiting to see if a hand goes up. I'm not seeing any as of yet. And still none.
All right, then the comment period is closed, and I turn it over to the board. Are there comments or questions? And Jay, can you tell me if someone out there, if one of the board members is raising their hand? Rick Meinking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This seems pretty straightforward to me, at least, and I don't have any questions. I just wanted to pipe in and say that from my perspective, this seems pretty crystal clear and is within in our purview. I'm just wondering if we were to do a motion, if we needed to add anything about that easement for the fire connection. And that's more directed toward the staff, if we wanted to have something into the. Go ahead.
Angela.
Yeah, I guess I try, I'm sorry if I made this more complicated than it was, but I did at the time, I took the opportunity to have it in front of us when we were doing the review for planning board. I also incorporated my private way standards review at the same
Great.
time. So I did one review. And so those comments got back to them so they'd have them. I didn't want to, I guess I was a little afraid to get too much in the weeds because I don't want to overcomplicate this. Typically, I guess the last time Abbey Lane came through, it was the same process. The board looked at the waiver requests, and that's really what you're voting on. And then it goes through a whole nother process
Right.
for private way standard review.
I see.
through
Okay.
me. So we can definitely capture all of that. So I guess if you would like to put a condition.
No, I don't want to
not
make it any more
necessary.
complicated. I just didn't know, I was missing that piece.
Right.
So now that I have
they'll
that
another
piece.
process, but I was trying to make it so it's not a huge process because now you already have my comments.
Right.
Okay.
So it should be pretty straightforward to get through. the
Well,
private
so
way.
much for me trying to make it simple
But
and
thank-
easy,
I
huh?
appreciate you looking out for those. kind
Okay,
of
that's all I
details.
was trying to do, but I'm
Yeah.
satisfied with that. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else on the board? Questions, comments?
I'm not seeing any hands on Zoom world here, and I think we do have a motion, a draft motion that has some conditions that might address what Mr. Meinking was just asking about.
We do have a draft motion, and if there are no additional questions from the board, 10, 9, 8. All right, I will turn to the draft motion. I move to approve the private way waiver proposal by Barry and Francis Tibbetts for 2 additional driveway entrances on Abbey Lane, bringing the total entrances to 13 as depicted on the plans set prepared by Sebago Technics dated 1/7/22 with the following findings and conditions. Findings, the proposed private way waiver request includes the amending Abbey Lane to include 2 additional driveway entrances. One would be for an existing home with a driveway on Berry Road, Lot 2B, owned by the Tibbetts, and another driveway entrance to the south where Berry Road meets Abbey Lane for a future buildable lot and home that would be split from Lot 2B. The proposal also includes a small land transfer from neighboring Lot 2 so the Tibbetts lot can have frontage on Abbey Lane. Conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, A, the applicant shall obtain a private way approval through the town engineer. B, provide a copy of the recorded private way plan to the planning department. 2, prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy, all work associated with the private way approval must be completed. Is there a second?
I second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rick. Understanding the concern from, it was expressed last time, does the board have any questions or comments? Hearing none, Doreen, would you go to the roll call?
Rachel Henderson.
Yes.
Ryan King,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
Richard Dufresne,
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Item number 9, Costco Wholesale Development request a sketch plan review for a retail facility at the Innovation District of Scarborough Downs with access via Payne Road, Assessors Map UO 53, lots 1, 1A, and 1B. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Costco Wholesale is seeking a sketch plan review to construct an approximately 161,000 square foot retail and wholesale building with an accessory gasoline filling station located at the intersection of Payne and Scarborough Downs Road. The project is also subject to the standards set forth in the Innovation Way Regulating Plan. The applicant has provided a considerate amount of detail and quite a bit more than what's required for a sketch plan. And as such, staff has provided an ample amount of comments, as the board has probably seen. And with that in mind, we would recommend to the board to not get too far into those comments, but only several that really relate to the main layout and design of the site. Those several that kind of come to mind would be consideration of commercial design standards, since the current plan does not meet those design standards as proposed. Why more parking than required is proposed, as well as how the applicant would amend the Innovation Way regulating plan, since there is some proposed lot reconfiguration. The current proposal modifies the existing lot layout and creates a new developable lot on the eastern portion of the site, which is not shown on the regulating plan. So those are a couple of things that we wanted to bring to staff's to the board's attention. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Thank you. Dan Bacon here on behalf of the Downs. I'm just going to provide a quick introduction on some of the higher level design approaches with this application. I'm going to turn over to Michelle Carlson of BL, who's here, the civil engineer leading the Costco site design. And also on Zoom, Mark Machisano of Costco is joining us, as well as Angela Balmer of MG2. I think those are the primary participants. So thank you. So obviously the Downs is really excited about Costco coming to the project. It's its first destination in the state, and obviously a great draw, not only for town residents, shoppers, town businesses, but also the region and the state. You know, this type of facility not only serves the community, but the broader area. So they have some pretty unique access and design needs that we've been able to meet at this location. Out of all the sites possible within the Downs, this is really the kind of the highway oriented one, if you will, or auto oriented one, given its location on Payne Road, the gateway into the Innovation District, which makes it a good fit for this end user. And I know the board has been working with us for actually a number of years now in terms of the Innovation District. So in the improvements on that end of the project. So you likely remember and are aware of this, but two of the proposed access points are already constructed to this site. So lot 1, 1A and 1B were part of your earlier subdivision approval from a few years ago. Infrastructure has been put in the ground in terms of utilities and overhead power to serve this site. And the access point off of the Downs Road coming in from the Payne Road intersection is already stubbed out to the site, as is the driveway that would serve this site on Innovation Way. Just as you come into the Innovation District on the left, there's a driveway and left turn lane that's already installed. In addition to that, and I'll talk about traffic in a second, the town and the DOT have approved a right-in, right-out. That hasn't been built yet, but it's been approved by both agencies on Payne Road. And so this design has been put together in light of those access points, in light of those layouts and those existing approvals. That's the other piece in terms of working with Costco on their initial layout is really kind of clustering the Costco building with those Innovation District buildings, so that it feels like one commercial kind of neighborhood. So that's driven, in addition to the utility and access layout, the layout of the Costco site. So the buildings are close to the other buildings as you come into the Innovation District. And lastly, and this is more of a master plan level component, when you come in the Downs Road from Payne Road, there was a good number of wetlands right along the Downs Road. And so working with Costco and their landscape plan, sort of intentionally avoided impacting those larger wetlands and kind of pushing the parking and building away, so that when you come in the Downs Road, you have more of kind of a green corridor coming in. And the Costco building and site is tucked further towards the Innovation District. I know the board is well aware of traffic and transportation in our TMP. We probably sound like a broken record at this point, given all your review of it. But that's not something the general public's necessarily aware of, that we approached at the Downs level transportation differently than most standalone developments. So typically, when you come for review for a project this size, traffic is a huge component of the review. And through our TMP process, we pre-approved, working with the board, traffic for the entire project. And this includes the Costco site. So the Costco trips that I'm sure Michelle's team will provide in the site plan submission are fully accounted for in the TMP, and we'll do the typical scorecard for the planning board, so you can kind of see the compliance with the Costco chips with our approved TMP. And this is a slide the board's seen before, but we thought it was important to put up sort of the tremendous amount of transportation improvements we're making starting this construction season to accommodate traffic that would be associated with this Costco site and other sites within the project. And working with DOT and the town, we really knew that because of the Innovation District development and the potential for development on this lot, that Payne Road improvements in the first year were really important, so that we can make improvements to the Downs Payne Holmes intersection this construction season, which is going to be well in advance of a building this size opening up. I think the construction schedule for actually being open for business is going to be the end of 2023 into early 24. So the improvements at the Downs Payne Road intersection will be done this year, as well improvements at exit 42, where there'll be a right turn lane. At Higas Parkway, there'll be improvements in front of Ginn Road. So really the Payne Road corridor, ideally under the TMP, is going to be complete in advance of the additional traffic that an end user like this generates. I thought that was important to point out. Again, not so much for the board, but for those that might be watching. I think lastly, and I'll turn it over to Michelle on the site design, is kind of design character. This was brought up through staff comments. And one of the overriding principles of building design and building architecture character is kind of fitting into the broader district. And given the location of Costco being right adjacent to the Innovation District, Costco's worked well with our team initially on kind of using building materials, kind of metal siding, the glass overhead doors, kind of really contemporary, more high-tech materials that are indicative of the Innovation District and modern, to correspond well with some of the best buildings within the Innovation District. So obviously you just approved the IDEX this evening, really a building of a similar scale and similar materials. Obviously the Crown building is close to complete, which is shown on the screen. And some of the closest Innovation District buildings that we're really proud of, Throttle, the Score Builders, the AV Tech buildings. Obviously, this is Innovation District, kind of more light industrial buildings, but we think that the layout of Costco, it's really the gateway into the Innovation District. And from a design character standpoint, it fits in, it kind of meets those design themes. And thinking about the commercial design standards, we think it has a lot of the elements that also meet the commercial design standards, though there's variations that are more modern than, say, the Sam's or the Super Walmart. Those buildings are in a kind of shopping center character from about 15 years ago, where they're trying to look like New England buildings that are more traditional. And Costco's approach at this point is really trying to fit into a more modern design and a more innovative design from a building material standpoint that's not necessarily a shopping center, and more in compatibility with the innovation district and the character of this part of the project. So with that kind of high level introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to walk through the details of the site layout.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Carlson. I'm a civil engineer, professional licensed engineer in the state of Maine. I work for BL Companies and I'm here representing Costco this evening. We've been working closely with Dan and Drew and their teams on this project, trying to make sure that we're incorporating elements of the innovation district and following the guidelines. I apologize for all the information that was submitted, but we wanted to submit everything we had to help you see what we were doing. We're in the process of working with the Maine DEP and the Army Corps, because as you know, if there's going to be some wetlands filling, maybe you don't know that, there's going to be some wetlands filling along Scarborough Downs and in the site that we have to get a permit from the Corps and the Maine DEP. So we've been working on those plans and grading and drainage and stormwater to provide to them. And we wanted to provide as much information as we had to use so that you could see what we're doing. We're by no means final with the details of the site plan itself. The site plan and the elements for site plan approval and what we would submit to you are still evolving. So we aren't trying to jump the gun at all. We just wanted to give you everything we had. So as you know, and you've been told, this lot is comprised of 3 lots. There's 1A, 1B, and 1. Costco is going to sit on part of 1A and 1B, and we're going to carve off a lot 1C to the far east of the site. And where's your, you can't see the pointer. I can see it, but they can't see it when I scroll. That's weird.
Laser?
Ah, there you go. Thank you. Over here is where lot 1C is going to be formed, and then we're going to consolidate the rest of 1A and 1B, and the Costco site will be approximately 19.25 acres. And it's easier to see with the red here. You can see the lot 1C off to the east on the aerial. And that'll be about 2.2 acres, and the Costco site approximately 19.25. This is the proposed site layout. The Costco building is set over here, and the reason we have the Costco building situated where it's at is because the back of the house, we'd like to keep away from any main roads. And this side is the loading area. Right here is the loading dock. There's doors on this side. You can see the compactors. You might not be able to see them unless you're looking closer, but there's compactors that are internally fed on the north side of the building. And then there are other miscellaneous doors in the back for smaller access. The main front of the store is right here. So what Costco does, they've got years of, operating and understanding what they need for their customers. And they want to try and get as many parking spaces surrounding that front entrance. That's why they're typically laid out like this, so that you're getting the massive parking in the front of the building. And then over here is where we're proposing the fuel station. If you recall, some of you that were here in June when we met on, I think, June 16th or June 15th of 2021. The gas station was actually here on the hard corner, and we felt it was better suited up here after we kept studying the site and the guidelines and trying to make sure that we were trying to be in conformance with the innovation district standards. We felt that the gas station was better suited where we have it here. Costco's typical parking spaces are 10 by 20. I know that the regulations 9 by 18 is maximum. The reason Costco spaces are 10 by 20 is, first of all, they're double striped. So if you actually measure from the inner stripe to the inner stripe, it's 9 feet. But if you measure from the inner of the double stripe, it's 10 feet. And the reason for that is there's bulk items that are coming out of Costco's, right? People have bigger carts, bigger carriages, and they're taking them to their cars. And whether they're loading from behind or loading on the side, the wider and deeper give them safe ways to unload their product into their cars. And that's why the spaces are 10 by 20. It's because of the type of product and the size of the carts that are being wheeled out onto the lot. As Dan said, on Scarborough Downs Road, we're utilizing the existing curb cut that's in place now. If you drive out there today, you can see this existing cut here. And over on Innovation Way, the same thing. We have the existing cut here that we're utilizing. And we are proposing a new right in, right out access on Payne Road. This is a truck turning template just to show you how the trucks would get in. The gas station truck would come in here and it would offload the product here. And then it would come out and exit onto Scarborough Downs Road. The deliveries would come in the back way here and come through the back of the house behind the building and around to the loading area. And then they would circle back out the same way that they came in. Stormwater management is the majority of it's going to be through extending the existing wet pond that's out there. The dark blue is the existing wet pond that's on site, and we're going to extend it where we have the light blue for the Costco site. The light blue lines on the drawing are the areas where the stormwater is going to be collected on site, and that's going to go to the wet pond, and it's going to go into a 4-bay first and then into the wet pond. And then the darker blue from the canopy of the fuel station is going to be, the water is going to be collected, and that's going to discharge to the wetlands to keep the wetlands to have continued, stormwater and to keep the drainage patterns the same as they are today. The canopy has a white roof, so that will help keep the water a little bit cooler the first flush versus if it was a black roof. They're typically white roofs. And also here, probably getting into too much detail, but groundwater is high. Groundwater is 1 to 2 feet below the surface. So it's not feasible to install underground infiltration systems. I mean, we looked into that. We always look to try and infiltrate as much as we can too and recharge, but the groundwater is very high here. This plan just shows the site utilities. We're pulling, water, sewer, electric, gas off of Innovation Way. Dan already said the infrastructure is in place. So we are going to be using the existing utilities in the street and connecting to them. The loads are sufficient for what we need. This is an example that I showed back in June. This is a Costco in East Lyme, Connecticut. This was built a few years ago. And this shows you the LED light fixtures and how there's cutoff lighting. It's literally the back of the parking, there is no light. This is a drone that BL that we flew at night and took these photos. This is not a made up, doctored picture. This is an actual drone flight. And we have something similar from another one that just opened back in November. And it's the same thing. There's just the light stops at the property line. It's amazing how technology has advanced with the LED light fixtures and the cutoff lighting. And you can see here, this is a layout that shows you the front of the Costco. And you can see the parking that's surrounding the front door, the way it's laid out. The main entrance is here. You come down this street and you come in this road here to go to the warehouse if you're coming into the warehouse first. And then you come down here to go into the gas station if you're coming into the gas station. So it's a similar layout, similar concept. Loading is all the way over here in the back by the highway, so it's not really visible and it's screened by vegetation. This is our landscaping plan that we're working on. Going to put in a bunch of mix of local species that are hardy, that are salt resistant, cold resistant, drought resistant, trying to use native species native to the area. This is the wetland in the front. We're going to have a fringe of species that are indicative of wetland species. We're also going to put some native seed mixes and conservation seed mix, back over in here along the edges of the wet pond. And we're working on further developing that prior to submitting for site plan. And then Angela, are you on? Do you want to talk about architecture? And I'll advance the slides for you.
Yeah, let me get myself off of mute here. Hello, I'm Angela Balmer. I work with MG2. We're Costco's master architect. And we had a pretty good opening presentation talking about the Innovation District, and basically that the architectural materials and design were selected to reflect that modern contemporary character of the Downs development and the Innovation District. It's for the most part, we have the metal panels that we've selected with darker highlights, caps, the cornices and accents of a darker material, very similar to the other designs for the Innovation District that you've already reviewed. We do have a flush apron out in front of the entryway there, kind of a gathering space for when the folks are coming from, the members are coming from the parking lot to focus their attention and activity to the front entrance. We do have some areas that we've defined along the thickened base of the wall there and around the front entry. That's basically to allow folks to get their hot dog and their Coke and come out and have a seat and enjoy the wonderful weather of Maine on those bright and sunny days. So that we've got the materials down below that you can look at. This is I think everybody's got a feel for the materials. We have the LED signs, sign lighters. This is a shot down the side where the tire center is. Kind of gives you an idea of the look of the Costco logo sign, and just generally the mix of materials along those walls. Okay, you can go to the next one. This is our fuel facility. This is the entrance perspective. This is from the queue or stacking side. And it's the same general feeling in the materials, the design motif archetype that is established with the Innovation District, that modern contemporary look. And it kind of gives you the perspective of the look from the filling facility to the front entry. That's obviously marketing to draw everybody from the fueling facility over to the building. This is looking back from the exit side of the fuel facility, looking back where we've basically have that site surrounded by the indigenous plants, plant materials, landscaping. And I guess that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions. Yeah.
And then we have Mark from Costco that would also like to speak. Would you like to hear him first, or do you want to ask Angela and I questions?
I think we'd prefer that you complete your presentation
Okay.
and then we go to a public comment. So the public would have,
Okay.
if they have a comment, they've heard everybody.
Okay. Mark, would you like to talk a little bit about Costco?
Sure, I'll give a brief introduction. My name is Mark Marchisano. I am Director of Development at Costco Wholesale. I appreciate everybody looking through our sketch plan. As Michelle said, we want to share everything that we've had to work with the Downs. They've been actually a very, very interactive group, and it's been a pleasure working through all the different items that we need to look at. Costco, this is as Dan had mentioned, is our first foray to come into Maine. We were founded in 1983. We have a total of 828 warehouses worldwide. 572 of those are in 47 states and Puerto Rico. So Maine would add one of those. We are in Massachusetts, and we have members that do come and visit our warehouses from even northern Maine, northern New Hampshire. And so the market has really put us insights to find a location within Maine itself. Costco is, we're very interactive with the community. We become, members of the community, just as we like to say that, hopefully you'll all become members of Costco. We are a retailer, a warehouse retailer. We do a number of things from, related to benefits that we bring to the local communities. I should probably say we're more of a regional destination. So we pull members or customers from long distances. And so they'll come from, as I had mentioned earlier, northern Maine. They'll come from down in Massachusetts or New Hampshire. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to be located within relative easy access to the highway. This location on the Downs gives us that ability. So we're able to successfully offer services to not only the local community, but also to the broader region as a whole. One of the really unique things about Costco itself is we have a low SKU count. So unlike larger retailers that may have 20 versions of an item or have 100,000 different SKUs within their building, we keep our SKUs down to 3,500 to 4,000 on average. So we're looking to find the best value for our members on sort of the best version of a product. That way we can pass that on to the community. We have one of the biggest things about our business is we actually support the local community on a much larger basis than just an individual. Many members for Costco are businesses. We supply a large amount of materials, everything from baked goods to products to a lot of the local businesses within the community. We also have opportunities for local businesses. If they have discussions with our operations, we do things that are called road shows, for example. It gives new businesses an opportunity to potentially showcase their product within the Costco to see how they might perform. So and that's only one way that we work with the local community. Another version of how we work with the community is if you take our eggs, for example. We have our organic grown eggs, our vendor that provides those. We have an agreement where throughout New England, we actually have agreements with many of the local farms throughout the communities within New England, and they actually provide eggs for Costco that we then sell to the market. So there's so many different levels. We offer a lot of jobs. We have an average of 275 employees per warehouse. That's usually like a 60-40 mix of full-time, part-time jobs. Typically, when we open a new warehouse, 20% plus or minus are transfers on the management level from other locations so that we can train employees. So we're offering the local community a number of jobs. Our starting wage is $17 an hour. So we have, I always joke that I'm an architect and I work for Costco. So Costco is a wonderful company to work for, and we really look out for our members. I've got a note here, I apologize. So the host has asked to start my video. My video is not working on my computer, so I apologize.
That's okay, Mark. One of your folks here has been flashing names, kind of like Vanna White, to make sure that we know who is speaking.
Okay.
So if it's not working, that's okay.
All right. Well, just to quickly round up the introduction to Costco, I mean, there are many things that, we can share as we go forward with our employees, the benefits they get, et cetera, and what we offer the community and our members. If I go to how we operate a little bit, just to give an introduction to that, our operating hours typically Monday through Friday are 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Saturday, we're open 9:30 to 6 p.m. and then Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The fueling facility is usually the same hours, and we try to open up like an hour earlier, and maybe stay open an hour later. It just really depends on the location. The way the building operates, the warehouse building itself, we're a single entry facility. So any of the other doors that you see around the building are simply for emergency access, egress if in case of something happening. But all the members, everybody tend to come in right in the front door. And that's, as Angela had explained and Michelle explained, how we like to keep the majority of our parking with clean, safe access to the front door. The gas facility, which is the fueling station, Michelle gave an introduction as to how the fuel truck comes in. We keep that separate from the members that are in line, so that way there's a safety aspect to it. The fueling facility is members only, so you have to have a Costco membership in order to be able to get fuel there. It also is one way, it's one direction. So in this site plan that's up, you would go from the left to the right. And we have an average, fuel time, fuel fill time of about 3.5 to 4 minutes per vehicle. So we have attendants that are out there, and they're able to interactively out in the gas lines, the queues, to be able to help the members fill up if they have any questions and things like that. It's a very efficient, safe method for a fueling station.
Thank you very much. I'm going to rush this just a little bit because so much of what you're getting into is something that really is going to come up again at the site plan. This is a sketch plan, so it's kind of a higher level. It's very helpful to us to understand how you operate, and we will actually end up probably asking you a lot of questions that are relevant to exactly what you've just said.
Perfect.
So I do want to say I was a happy member of Costco down in Leesburg, Virginia, and I'm certainly happy that you're coming up here. What's going to happen now is I'm going to open the floor for public discussion or public comment. Then I'm going to have a 5-minute break because at least the chair needs to do that for 5 minutes. And we will then come back and finish this discussion. So let me see if there's anybody online who has comments. The public comment period is open.
Madam Chair, I see one person who has their name up. If you're ready, I will give them permissions to speak.
Please do so.
Okay.
And when you do speak, will you please cite your name and your address?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is John Paninchny. I work for Noria Energy, and I sit before you folks I would like to show my or give some feedback on Costco. Fantastic company. I'm very familiar with the wholesale club industry. I also want to share with the board the downside. The business model is such where they drive fuel pricing down, cost inside the store down. It really reduces the street price for every other competitor out on the road. And essentially what they're doing is driving those folks into the membership. I want to be very vocal in the sense that the local economy will certainly be impacted by this. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. And I wanted to share my opposition because the business model is such. I mean, there's a great place and a time for wholesale clubs, brick and mortar. And I think in this location, it would have a tremendous impact on local business.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I am not, since you really didn't ask a question, there's no need at this point for me to ask the Costco to respond. We're here to take a look at this as a site plan. You have additional opportunity to comment during public opinion, public comment times. You are also free to send a letter to the board and to check when Costco would be coming up again for a site plan review. We welcome comments from the public. I appreciate that comment that you've made. It brings a very different perspective, and thank you very much.
I am not seeing any other hands up at this time, Madam Chair.
All right, let us take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes from that clock up there.
Yeah, look at that. I'll make sure Mr. Bacon gets one of those.
All right, this meeting is back in order. And it is time for the board members to, I assume, excuse me, I do assume that the developer is done?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the board members. Who would like to go first?
This is Rick Duperi. I'll go first.
All right.
So I thought it was a very complete summary that they gave. And I did like the information regarding the things that Costco does to help the community grow. It does seem like a whole lot of parking space, but I can understand where you need bigger spaces. I'm guessing that this is a design that's been done over and over, so Costco's figured out that that's how many spaces they need. But I'd like to, in future meetings, I think we have what we need for a site plan, but in future meetings, I'd like to maybe have them talk a little bit about how they come to that conclusion that they need that much impervious surface. And then I have other questions too, but they're not appropriate at this time because at this stage in the process. So I did appreciate the level of detail, although it was a little overwhelming for what we were doing tonight, but it was good information. That's all I have.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, and as Rick points out, this is a sketch plan, and part of our job is to provide the applicant with some direction, and that they can go back and think about in terms of their plans coming up. We will certainly get a lot more detailed as we go along. So this is more of a high level review and looking at more of the macro issues associated with the application. Certainly, as the staff has pointed out, parking is one of those issues. Someone else, another board member. Chad, go ahead.
Yes, I guess I'd be interested in learning more about the building and maybe perhaps its more sustainable features. Are we talking skylights, taking advantage of daylighting? And then also site-wise, just curious, snow storage, generator and such. So just a couple of items. And I guess finally, what the intent might be with roadway signage.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, are you done?
Yes.
When I can't see somebody online, I don't have I don't have a computer to see the folks who are online. Someone next. All right, Rick Meinking.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to Scarborough. It's been the big buzz around town. I'm gone to several places, even in the high school, I hear, hey, there's a new store coming into the Downs, and it's really nice. So it's caught the buzz here in the town of Scarborough. Parking will be a topic we will discuss, so make sure you're fully loaded with that. I appreciate having a fuel station. I mean, there are needs. But what was interesting is I didn't see any notes, although this is just a sketch plan. I would encourage you to consider what we're going to do about the new vehicles that are coming into our life in terms of the electric vehicles. And it was interesting to note, and I think it was from Mark, how people come from a long way to come shopping at one of these facilities. And And I can only see even more need than for having some sort of charging opportunities for the electric vehicles. So please consider that. But the biggest thing I'd like to just put out there for you folks is to take a look at the Scarborough Comprehensive Plan when it comes to the built environment. And I think Chad had mentioned it, sustainability and things in which we can do in our community to lessen the impacts of the built environment. And so whatever you can do to bring out some of those features from our comprehensive plan, whether it's, I don't know if this would be a good candidate for timber structure. It doesn't seem like that's the where you're going, and it's probably not part of Costco's corporate design. It's, too bad, but I understand it. But it's those kind of things that I want you to be thinking about as you come forward and do the site plan with us. We're really looking to mitigate the effects of development and the built environment in Scarborough, and would ask you to take that into serious consideration when you move forward with your planning. I think the value in the economy and in the lives of the folks that live in Scarborough, whether it's becoming a sponsor for the varsity baseball team or something of that nature, I think these are all the elements that Scarborough looks for. How can we take care of our own? And it'd be great to welcome Costco into that family of businesses that continue to do that for our community. So I look forward to the continued conversations with this. I'm not the expert on traffic. We have lots of expertise on this board on traffic. We have lots of folks that are very compassionate about buffering and about the landscape. And I know you'll hear the word robust numerous times. And I think there's opportunities to really make this the gateway into the innovation district, but not only into the innovation district, but the downtown district that is going to come to fruition at some point. This is going to be one of those anchor lots, and the more we can set the tone for coming into downtown Scarborough, you're going to set the bar. So keep that in mind as well. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Roger?
Yes, thank you. Let me take my hand down. I'm kind of curious about the location. How the decision was made to place the building where it's located and the parking where it's located. Was this a collaboration between the applicant and the Downs, maybe? Because I'm kind of curious about that, because it seems like a decision was made to place the building, have the exposure on Innovation Drive versus out on the corner of Payne and the Downs Road, or the current Downs Road. So I was just kind of curious about if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
If the applicant could come up and elaborate on that, that was also my question.
This is Mark Marchesano with Costco. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
There are several reasons for that. One is there is a monument on the corner currently that the Downs is looking to preserve. It also gives us accessibility in the layout, which is much cleaner for our deliveries, as well as for the way that members access the property. We keep the best side of the building out in the public arena, and we hide the back end behind the trees and behind a couple of the other industrial buildings. So that's largely the main reason why we're put back there, It also gives us the ability to keep our parking for our members at the point of access to the building. And then the last one would be because of the wetlands that are all along Innovation Way and Scarborough Downs Road. We've pushed the parking as well as the building off that, so we had a very minimal impact on that.
Okay, because I understand that reasoning. I was just kind of curious how it was arrived at, because when I was thinking about your fuel facilities, where that's members only, you could almost tuck that almost anywhere on the property instead of having it right out there on Payne Road. And but I do understand your reasoning. One thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have some good, robust landscaping around the parking area to basically shield some of that or buffer that from view, I think, from the main roads, which I suspect you'll probably do that anyways. I understand your reasoning for the parking spaces too. It does make a lot of sense to me what you're saying. And as far as the building is concerned, I understand what my colleague just said about sustainability, but I do think the building fits in perfectly with the entire innovation district right now. In fact, if it was any dramatically different than those materials that you have planned to use, it wouldn't fit in. So I think it looks very very attractive using the materials you're planning to use, in the context of that whole innovation district.
If I may, our architect for site plan application will present sort of the environmental aspect to our building, because if you're familiar with LEED certifications, we're not going through a LEED certification, but we're equivalent to a LEED silver building with the materials, the lighting that we do, the way that we manage the building and the facilities, the LED lights in the parking lot, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole aspect to that we'll be happy to share and have that discussion. As far as just sort of an overview on the parking as well, we are considering and looking at the options for charging. So that hasn't been figured out yet. And so there is, change and things like that and discussions that we need to have related to the layout and where things go. So it is a sketch plan. We did show a lot of stuff, but there's still a long way for us to get to the next step.
Let me ask you, what is lot 1C? What is that right now? Is that buildable property, or is that just wetlands?
It's both.
I think
Michelle Carlson. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to answer that.
The questions really should be, responses should be addressed to the chair. Roger, that right now is it would be a buildable lot. It doesn't exist until we essentially agree that it exists, because they're proposing to spin that off. The first two lots were 1A and 1B. They're being merged into this whole lot. And then the proposal, assuming that what goes through is the plan that they have, that would be, I believe, spun off as a buildable lot. At this point, we don't know how much is wetlands and what would be able to be built on it or anything else. So that's where that stands right now. I'm getting a nod. So I'm not sure full decisions have been made on what that's going to look like or how that's going to be handled. That would be left for, I guess, additional meetings.
No, I understand that. I was just kind of curious, because the significant side of the building will be exposed to Innovation Drive, where that lot is. So that's why I was just wondering whether it was just wetlands or whether it was a buildable lot. And lastly, I guess I've lived in town quite a few years, but I'm not quite sure what that landmark is. Can somebody explain to me what that landmark is at the
Madam
corner
Chair,
of,
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, it is a memorial for, I believe, someone who was killed in an accident. Am I correct? Someone who was killed there in an automobile accident. And the family has had a cross there and has taken care of that area in honor of that person.
oh, okay. Now I think I know what it is. Yes. Okay, fine. All right, I guess I don't have any other questions pertaining to, sketch plan review at this point. And no need to review what I've said already. So, I'm pleased to see Costco coming here. The town has thrived with other big stores around here, so hopefully everything will work out. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
Okay, thank you. As others have mentioned, I'll look forward to some more information about your on-site parking proposal, both in terms of quantity and the size. That's quite a, you're adding about 40 square feet per space over what we require. And while I understand the the reasonings that you've talked about tonight, as Roger just mentioned, we do have other stores in town that have larger, sell larger products. I was at Home Depot over the weekend and they have, kind of those larger carts, and people seemed to be able to load, even large lumber generators or things like that from those, given I didn't measure them, but I'm assuming they're sort of a more standard parking space. So anyway, just some more information on that would be helpful. And certainly look forward to an overall look at the traffic generated by this site, understanding that it will fit within the TMP that's been approved overall. But I'm particularly curious about what the team here envisions for a traffic draw to this site from elsewhere within the Downs. Obviously we know that this site was chosen due to its proximity to the highway and Payne Road. But I'm just curious what type of a draw the experts think that this will have from within the site. Particularly given the multiple entrances that you have. So I think that, the secondary entrance that's closer to the innovation district, what type of traffic that might see. And then I think it was ironed out, but it sounds like maybe there was an extra note on the one of the earlier plans in the plan set. Just want to clarify that we are only looking at one gas station here, not two. And I do think that I think it was a good, I think the location chosen for this service station is better than the previous corner. It's a little bit further from the intersection, and I think it'll just improve your site operations overall. I think other than, other things that I'm interested to hear some more on as we get further on is a little bit more about your landscaping, particularly the percentage that you're showing for landscaping within the parking area falls within the range that's requested. But given such a large, you're proposing such a large parking field, I just wonder if there's any opportunity for you to be a little bit closer to the higher end of that percentage than the lower end. I think it's 15% instead of 11 or something that you're showing on your plans. And, with that, some of the other things that have come up, particularly snow storage, how are we going to prevent snow storage from getting into those sensitive wetland areas? And I think those were the specific comments that came up as I was looking through this, but certainly looking forward to seeing how this develops as you continue to work through your plans.
Thank you. Karen or Chad?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I actually did belong to Costco for a year when I lived in San Jose, and I only joined to get the gas, and I only joined Sam's Club to get the gas. So I think a couple comments or things that come to mind when I look at it is I just know personally, I remember in San Jose, it felt like the queue was a lot bigger. I know when I go to Sam's Club, it's kind of chaotic when it's gas time. And I can sure as tell you, I'm probably gonna be joining Costco to get gas as well. So I think I would like a little more information about how many stations there are, kind of really what you would do with a backup, especially I feel like that will be a big draw. And I'd like a little more information about where, if there's an overflow of traffic lining up and basically those sorts of things. Otherwise, I think Costco's a great addition.
Thank you. Chad?
I did already go, but yeah, just wanted to
I'm
echo.
sorry, I missed that.
Maybe there would be an opportunity for solar with such a large roof here.
Roger? Do you still have your hand up?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I do.
Okay.
Too many things to do here when you're on this at home. Yeah, regarding the parking, I just thought about something when the topic came up for parking again. When you folks plan the parking, do you break down the percentages, the percentage of the lot that's filled over certain periods of the day? I mean, the lot isn't always filled, I presume. And the reason I brought this up is I remember when Walmart came to town, and we still had a Kmart, and Kmart had this gigantic parking lot in the front of the building, which always looked like it was empty. And I was told by a good source that Walmart purposely did not have such a large parking lot because their marketing philosophy is they wanted their parking lot always to look full. So I was just kind of curious what the parking philosophy is for Costco. I mean, because this is a lot of parking. So if there's any way of reducing that parking down, I think that would be helpful. If you have any comments on that.
I think, Roger, that's a good question to ask them to come back with when they come back with the plan, the preliminary plan. That
You got to write that down now and remember that.
I've noticed a couple of people scribbling rapidly back here or in front of us. So I think they've gotten that. I think I also have concerns about parking, although it's not necessarily size, but it's number.
No, we don't want cars queuing out on the streets waiting to get in, but at the same time, if the parking lot is generally not going to be filled, say it's going to be 75 or 80% filled over most of the day, then maybe there's an opportunity to reduce that down, you know, so that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's my turn. Okay. What I want to remind both the planning board and the applicant is that it is up to the applicant to have the burden of proof on any of these things and any of these questions that we've raised. And certainly it sounds as though we're going to be taking a very hard look at parking. The size of the size of the lots, the slots, the number of the parking slots. We've learned from other big box stores the effect that amount of asphalt has on the water table, and we've had some problems with downstream effects from big box stores. So that has made us really concerned about parking and about the extent of parking. So we really are looking forward to, or certainly I am looking forward to some good data from the applicant. I also have a concern. There's a series of issues that the staff has brought up that we've kind of talked about, talked around, but not been very always specific about. And one of the things, again, is that the design standards have to meet the commercial design standards. And one of those standards is a relationship to the street. Now, you've given us a good reason why you've chosen to site the building to the back. I haven't heard a good reason not to site it to the front so that it is facing the street. I understand why you want to create a relationship to the rest of the innovation district. But the standards really call for the relationship to be with the street. And that's likely Payne Road, although it's possible that the relationship, I suppose, could be with the Scarborough Downs Road. There is also a design standard that says that the pumps for a gas station have to be to the rear of the station, not on the street, not facing the street. And you've proposed a fueling station, not a gas station, but once again, what's to screen that station again from the street, those pumps from the street. So that is something that I'm looking forward to you talking about and addressing the issues on. The entrances from Payne Road, you're talking about 3 of them. We usually, we tend to try to limit some of the cuts. Now the cuts, 2 of the cuts are there. The 3rd cut is on Payne Road and it's part of the traffic movement permit. So I understand that. But as I look at the entrance and the access off of Payne Road, I see that the parking lot is essentially going to be considered, 1 row of the parking lot is going to be considered part of a main drag that gets people from the lots of the parking spaces close to the building down to Payne Road. So how you're going to handle traffic circulation within there. I mean, we've talked about how you're going to handle the circulation of the gas station if it's left in that position. Let's see how you're going to handle the rest of the circulation, how you're going to accommodate that. You talked about where the trucks are going to go. Again, that assumes that that is where that building is going to end up instead of ending up someplace else with a relationship to the road. So I really caution you or ask you to go through the staff comments. The staff is sometimes a little, sometimes I'm going to use the word picky. But what they really do is they take a look at our ordinances and they take a look at our design standards and they bring them to our attention. And we also take a look at what the staff is saying and hope to see your response there. And that's what I would look for. Now, I heard what you said about landscaping. And that's a good way to address it with the native plants. But when we talk about buffer streets, as I think it was Rick Meinking said, you'll hear the word robust used a lot. And in some cases, that sort of buffering can be very important. As we take a look at it, it handles issues of wetland. It absorbs some of the water. It can be used to assist in mitigating some stormwater. So we really do want to take a hard look at the landscaping. That's something that I will be looking for. I think you've made, I think this is a really wonderful start because you've done a lot of thinking about it. But I certainly hope that you would take a look at what the staff has asked you to look at. Remember that you have the responsibility of the burden of proof. I just do want to comment that you've referred a couple of times to a meeting that was earlier this year. It's a meeting none of us were invited to. So we actually couldn't attend that. So you may want to consider that we don't have all of the background that you seem to assume that we had in some areas. I think that's what I have. I would ask if there is anything else from the applicant that you would ask of us, anything that we haven't been clear on, any concerns that you have that we could address at this point.
This is Mark. I don't have any additional questions at the moment. I'm looking forward to continued conversation and trying to move the project forward and for us to help answer some of the questions that you have and solve others together.
Thank you very much, Mark, and I appreciate that, and I urge you to work with the staff, with our staff here in town. They are really, really good, and they will help you come back to us with an application that I believe is sterling. I certainly hope that it won't be long before you will have completed what needs to be completed, and we can start construction.
Madam Chair.
Thank you
Go
very
ahead.
much.
One thing that would make looking at this application a bit easier from a staff perspective is clarifying the board's direction on whether they would maybe like to see another proposed layout with the building closer to Scarborough Downs and Payne, and the gas station at the rear, which is more in tune with the design standards, or perhaps entertain a waiver come the formal site plan for those standards. I don't know if the board would find it helpful to see what another potential layout could be, or if we're just kind of looking for a few small tweaks for this final site plan submission. I guess a sense of direction would be helpful from a staff perspective on that.
All right, then in that case, let me start. I would like to see alternatives. It's possible that after we see the alternatives, we say, yep, you were right the first time. But I would personally like to see an alternative layout that actually comports with the design standards before we start to consider a waiver. Let me ask the rest of the board. Would the board like to see an additional site location?
Rachel, if I
Yep.
may, that was actually the purpose of my question earlier. I was kind of curious whether the layout of the location, the building and everything, was it a collaboration between the Downs people and the applicant? In other words, was it the preference of the Downs folks to have the building more oriented towards Innovation Drive versus out on Payne Road? And so I was kind of curious about that, because I can see the benefit of that because it provides some continuity. But at the same time, I understand what the ordinance prefers, the building being closer to the road. So that's what that was the genesis of my earlier question.
This is Mark.
Wait, just a moment, please. So Roger, you are interested in taking a look at alternative siting, and that might explain, that might take care of your concerns or answer your questions?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's so much a concern, it's just kind of curiosity as to, was this strictly Costco's design, or was it in collaboration with the Downs people? Because of the Downs people preference to have it oriented towards Innovation Drive versus Scarborough Downs Road. So that was, I understand why they positioned it and put the building where they did. But if the board wants to see options, I don't have a problem with that. And I'm sure the applicant's going to be able to justify or at least provide some reasoning why they located it the way they did. I was just wondering whether there was a collaboration or if this was just strictly Costco's desired location. That's all.
All right, thank you, Roger. And if we could just have a response to that with the next submission. And let me test to see if other board members are interested in seeing alternative sightings.
Rachel, this is Rick Dupari.
Yep.
I would be interested in seeing alternative siting for a couple of reasons that you pointed out earlier. One, or I guess Karen pointed out the pumps being close to the road. So there's two things, I guess. One is that I think in the past, whenever there's been a lot that has frontage on two streets, we always require the entrance and exit to be on the least traveled street. And I understand that there's a traffic movement permit involved with this and it's a large site, but is there a way that they can have an exit onto another road into the downs potentially and still get their traffic movement permit? But to have a rule that we make the smallest of our folks here in town adhere to, and then not make someone else adhere to it. We've made exceptions in the past when it makes sense. It may make sense in this case, but I'm not sure it does. And I do, Karen pointed out that those pumps are close to the road, and that is, I agree with her. If you've been to Sam's Club on a sunny Sunday afternoon or right before a big storm like the other day, it's a complete cluster. And I don't know if we want that with people trying to turn in off of Payne Road, turning into that. So yeah, I would agree with you. I'd like to see an alternative location for the building, the pumps, and maybe see if we can eliminate that entrance and exit off of Payne Road and put that somewhere else. So yes, I would like to see an alternative.
All right, thank you. Although I do have to tell you that that an entrance off of Payne Road is in the TMP, so it's received approval. The question is how much is it used versus basically where is the traffic directed? And there are two other entrances, one on Scarborough Downs Road and one on Innovation Way. And the staff has pointed out that the Scarborough Downs Road is scheduled to be ultimately eliminated. So,
well, it's a left.
So there are some, but you're right. We have required businesses to go to the least traveled road.
I mean, if it's a requirement that kills the project, then I would, allow it or vote to allow it. But if it's required, I guess it's required. If it's part of the traffic movement permit and they need it, it does. I hate to let the big guys get away with something that we don't let the little guys get away with, if you know what I mean. So
well, I think, Rick, what you can consider is first of all, consider the alternative to the location of the gas station. And then in terms of traffic movement within the property, where would we direct or where would they direct the majority of the traffic so that the exit onto Payne Road is much less? Let's say the traffic is much less onto there. That's always an option that can be taken a look at as we go through this whole process.
Okay, I agree, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Anybody else? Is there any other issue?
This
Go
is
ahead.
Jen. I just would also appreciate seeing some alternatives, and I suspect these are things that your team has probably already vetted and looked at, and so perhaps just bringing us along your train of thought in terms of how you arrived at where you are, but maybe we, through one of those alternatives, we may be able to help you find a siting that does in fact coincide a little bit more strongly with the guidelines here, particularly in terms of screening. I know that was brought up, sort of orienting the backside of the building away from other activity. And I just wonder if there's a way to perhaps use any of the inherent space. The wetlands aren't densely forested, for example, but there is quite a bit of space there that's not being used between the developed portion of this combined lot and Scarborough Downs Road. So I wonder if that might be an opportunity for some of that robust buffering that we keep hinting at in a different siting alternative. So I do think it would be helpful for all of us to see a couple of those if you have them. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the board? No hands raised? All right, thank you very much, folks. Appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next submission. I hope we've been helpful rather than confusing. And I reiterate, please work with the staff on some of these issues.
Thank you very much.
Item number 10, Mayetta Construction requests a land reclamation review for a wetland restoration project as part of an approved EPA mitigation plan at 150 Pleasant Hill Road, Assessors Map R078, Lot 50A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayetta is requesting a review of a land reclamation project in accordance with a Maine DEP and EPA approved work plan. That would consist of restoration and stabilization measures on site, as well as such measures on 4 wetland areas on the property. Work outside of those areas will mostly consist of fill removal and grading, as well as installation of stormwater facilities. There's no further development proposed on site at this time. Land reclamation projects must go through a preliminary and final review by the planning board, just as a procedural note. And since the plan has been approved by both EPA and Maine DEP, staff's comments are relatively minor. The biggest item to note is discussion of Maine DEP permits and kind of where those approvals are, as well as discussion of a potential waiver for allowing steeper slopes than are permitted in the design guidelines, which I believe a staff memo was provided recommending that by our civil engineer peer reviewer. A draft motion has been provided for the board's consideration to move the project from preliminary to final review. And with that, I will turn it back to the board.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Amy Siegel. I'm a landscape architect at Sebago Technics. I'm here with Vinnie Mayetta, the applicant. Also on Zoom is Chris Taylor, a civil engineer from Sebago Technics, and Rodney Kelshaw, from our wetland scientist from Flycatcher. So if you have any specific questions about the engineering or the wetland restoration, they are able to answer those questions. So as you've read and you've just heard, the Mayetta received approval for their wetland restoration, mitigation, and preservation work plan from EPA in October of 21. That work plan was the culmination of over 5 years of negotiation between Mayetta and the EPA, which was necessitated by unpermitted wetland fill over a period of decades. So we are here tonight specifically to talk about our application before you, which is for our under Chapter 408, the Extractive Industry and Land Reclamation Ordinance. We felt this was the most applicable ordinance because we are truly trying to restore the land to its natural state, or the majority of it. As Eric was reviewing, the project involves several different steps. The first being the removal of the fill within wetlands. And the second being removal and control of invasive species within those wetland areas and the disturbed areas surrounding it. Then replanting those areas with native species and reestablishing the hydrology to support that wetland restoration. We have a plan here. It's a little bit tricky, so I'm going to zoom into it a bit here. So there are 4 specific areas that Meta worked with EPA to define over a period of time. We have, I'm going to start with area A, which is this very narrow area outlined in yellow. That is basically the fill slope from what will be a regraded area uphill of that. That is that 2-to-1 slope that we talked about that's in excess of the 4-to-1 slope that's allowed. That will be stabilized with conservation seed mix and stabilizer, so it will be it won't lead to erosion. We have the area that's in the biggest area of which is B here. That's the majority of that area is where the fill will be removed from. It also has a pretty healthy stand of Phragmites in this lower area, which will be removed and then controlled over a period of several years. We have area C. Let's see, wait, just to make a note here. So area 1 is a little over 1 acre. Area A is a little over 1 acre. Area B is a little under 5 acres. Area C, again, is a little over 1 acre. That's the area outlined in blue. In this area, it's more of a disturbed area with some native vegetation, so there won't be any removal of fill per se, but just sort of spot treatment to control the invasive species and replanting where we need to. Then the largest of the areas, a little over 7 acres, is area D, which is the area, it's an existing forested wetland along Highland Avenue. So that will stay undisturbed. The only change within this area will be, and if you look, you can see these faint black lines, sort of repeated parallel lines there, that those are old drainage ditches that predate Mayetta being out there, but they were kind of like farm ditches, to kind of drain out the wetlands. So those all drain into the swale along the western side of Highland Avenue. So we will actually be damming those ditches up, so that the hydrology will then kind of back up into areas B and C to kind of restore the hydrology for those wetlands. Again, Rodney's on Zoom, so he can answer specific questions about this, sort of the specifics of that. They've tested the soils, they've done the invasive species mapping, and all of those different things that are necessary for the work plan. So, and then I'm going to go into the next plan here. So this is the grading plan that was submitted. And starting back here, you can see these lines as the site will be regraded and will pitch towards this wet pond stormwater BMP that's right here on the edge. So the western edge of area A, as I described it previously. So this area historically has been used for stockpiling construction debris, loam piles, all these different products that have come out of different construction projects. Those areas will be cleaned up and graded. So all of those stockpiles will be removed. And this stormwater BMP has been sized to handle any future development. So again, the project that we had before you tonight does not include any structures, buildings, parking, lighting, any of those things. And in the future, we've proposed this grading and the stormwater BMP to handle any future development. Of course, any of that would have to come back before you through site plan review. That's sort of kind of most of it in a nutshell. We looking at the comments that we have from Woodard and Kern and staff, a few good ones, relevant ones, are our approvals that we're working through with DEP. So as Eric mentioned, DEP has been a part of the conversations with EPA over the course of years. They've been kept sort of informed, but we still at this point need to submit a stormwater PBR because we're over an acre of disturbance. So that's pretty straightforward. And we're also submitting under section 12 of the NRPA for permit by rule for the wetland restoration. So we'll be submitting those 2 permits, and we'll obviously give you a copy of those before our next meeting. Then the other comment here was, I think it's asking some specific, maybe this needs a little clarification for me, is what additional information is needed about the sizing for the wet pond. Again, Chris can answer any specific questions about how the considerations that were made in sizing that. But again, the idea was to size it so it can handle any future development. So it's installed and it's there. And then, Vinny would come forward with, site plan to show how that's being accommodated. Let's see. I think there were some sort of minor things. Oh, signage. Yeah, there will be signage to denote the limit of disturbance and the preservation of the area. So we'll submit a copy of that sign, what that would look like. I wasn't thinking about that kind of signage. So we will show the zoning line on there. And again, we would be asking for a waiver from the board for the slope consideration. And just to kind of be specific about that, that was a specific slope that the EPA was looking for in that area. They were very specific about the area they wanted for that fill slope and how big, how wide it was, and its actual slope. So we were just kind of conforming to what EPA wanted to see there. So that's kind of a pretty, hopefully informative and brief overview. Happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you. This is an item for public comment. Is there any member of the public who would care to comment? Do we have anybody left online?
We have a few folks, but I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand. And I do apologize. I was bringing up another document when the other members of the applicant team's name were mentioned. So if there's someone I haven't brought in yet, please just let me know and I'll bring them in.
Is there a Chris Taylor and a Rodney Kelshaw waiting to come in?
There is a Chris Taylor. Rodney is in.
All right.
Chris was the one I had missed. And I still do not see any hands up.
All right, thank you very much, Jay. The time for public comment is over. I will turn this over to members of the board. And does anybody have any questions? So we do have the draft motion. I hope you've all had a chance to read it. Questions? And a reminder that this is the preliminary plan review. They will be back to us for a final plan review. Board members, questions? All right, seeing none. The only comment that I have is you've raised a fine crop of invasive plants. That's a pretty hefty list, and I appreciate the efforts that you're going to be making to get rid of them and return the native species to that area. If you can get rid of the seeds and I think you have some bittersweet in there, which birds love to spread. That will help a lot of people. That will help neighboring territories, neighboring property as well. So appreciate that work. I know that probably you were told to do it, but it's still good work. And thank you for it. I would have a draft motion. I move to approve the preliminary plan of Mayetta Construction conditioned on addressing staff comments as discussed at the January 31st, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Rick Meinking has seconded it.
Sorry, Roger.
My hands aren't fast enough.
Roger, from where I sit, I can only see the plan. I have to turn away all the way around to actually see if I can see you on the screen and back.
That's no excuse, Rachel.
Well, I know. So next time you be here and I'll see your hand. Are there any comments or changes or amendments suggested from the board? No hands? All right, seeing none, Doreen, will you call the roll?
Rachel Hendrickson,
Yes.
Rick Meinking,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
Richard Dupere,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. That is unanimous approval.
Oh, yeah. That's a no. Thank you.
Staff report.
Thank you. Let me just get my life back in order here.
Do you want me to start while you're getting organized?
Sure.
I know Eric sent out an email earlier today, which you might not have seen right before the meeting, about a workshop that is being held. It's a joint workshop being held by MMA and Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District. And it's part of our stormwater DEP/EPA permitting the town has to do. Part of our requirement every year is to educate our leadership. And so we target counselors for that. Specifically in the past, I know we've done joint workshops with Planning Board and Conservation Commission. And I think it's helpful information for everybody to know that staff and all the departments, not just Public Works or planning, but it includes police, fire, everybody is working towards compliance of our stormwater permit that we have in town. And so right now we had specifically targeted, as I said, counselors, but Planning Board is also very much welcome to attend. It is an online Zoom meeting or workshop. It is, they ended up breaking it up into sub-regions. So Scarborough is in the southern sub-region with Saco, Biddeford, and Orchard Beach. So all of their counselors and staff will also probably be attending virtually. So I encourage anybody who is free this Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30. Council is kind of setting it aside kind of like as part of their workshop. They'll have a meeting, I think a workshop after that. So just wanted to put it on your radar if those are interested.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you. The only item I really have for a staff report is that we have issued a certificate of occupancy for Mainly Tubbs out on Innovation Way. And along with the stormwater workshop that Angela just described on Wednesday, there is a planning board as well as zoning board of appeals workshop being held a week from this Thursday. So that'd be February 10th. From, I believe it's 4:30 to 7. And planning board members have been provided that link to register. And it is, you do have to pay for it, but if you email Doreen, she can register you for, because the planning board has expenses to cover that. Other than that, I have nothing.
Administrative amendment report.
We have none.
Minor development review.
We do have one minor development review I'll update you on. I guess I should say two, because one has come in since we last made the agenda, but Abbott, their 46 or 4,700 square foot modular trailer, which was in front of the board as a sketch plan a couple of months ago, we did approve. One of the larger issues on that site was upgrading the signal at Southgate and Route 1. So before they get a certificate of occupancy for that modular trailer office space, they're going to have to make those upgrades or provide a performance guarantee for those. And we do also have another Abbott trailer application that is also being reviewed as a minor development review. This time it's on a property that they are, I believe, leasing at 14 Washington Ave. So they have another trailer that's being proposed, and we've worked with the fire department on a location for it. So you'll be seeing another Abbott trailer in your minor development review reports and agendas moving forward. So that's where we are for minor development reviews, and that's all I have.
I have one question, and that is really, this is the first second minor development review that's come forward. How is that working? Do you think the applicants are comfortable and?
I absolutely think so. I think that I wasn't here when it was developed, but I think the board and staff did a great job with it. We do get questions on, how many copies do I provide since it's not a full site plan? And that's actually something that we're working to address. You probably know there's a form on the planning board applications page that says how many copies of each thing to provide. So we're working on making one of those for a minor development review. And hopefully that will be useful to the applicants moving forward. So I've had a great experience with it. I don't know if Jay needs to chime in about the previous minor review, but I think it's going pretty well.
That's good. For those of you who are new, we did a couple of years ago, or about a year ago, come up with a different process for the smaller developments that didn't necessarily require specific votes by the board and with the waivers. And it looks as though it's working. It's pretty much, the staff is doing pretty much the same review as we would be doing. It's maybe a little less formal because there's a give and take and a discussion, and staff helps the applicant work through any issues that are there. If the applicant does not like what the staff is doing or saying, the applicant has the option of choosing to do it through the minor development reviews or coming before us. And if they decide they do not like the way the staff is directing them or working with them, they still have the opportunity of coming before us. So I think it seems from what Eric is saying, it's an experiment that's working. So
far, we haven't driven anybody away from us.
They
so
well, they
happy to
would
report
if
that.
you drove them away from you, they would be coming to us, and I'm sure we would have gotten the phone call. Thank you very much.
Excuse
So-
me, one.
Yeah.
That's based on, is it 1 acre or is it 5 acre?
It's 1 acre.
1 acre,
So it's
okay.
less than
But
an
we
acre.
were thinking at some point, we could bump it up to a 5 acre threshold, correct?
Right now, it's based on, it doesn't need like state or federal permitting. It's basically those lower thresholds that they don't have to go through to get like a stormwater permit or things like that. So that's where it gets into how much disturbed area.
Okay,
So that's
I
where-
thought we had it based on the lot size.
It is
Yeah.
plus.
Plus the, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
If
It's a more complicated review when you get into stormwater permitting and things like that. So that's where.
Okay,
And if it was under 1 acre, but there was a specific waiver that they were asking that could only be granted by the planning board,
Yep.
then it would come before us.
Right.
Correspondence.
I don't think we have any.
Okay, planning board comments. Let's go around the room. Let's start, why don't we start with Rick King, who is sitting.
that's the disadvantages of coming when
Yeah,
it
I
could have
know,
been
he's sitting
virtual, huh?
right next to me, and there he is.
No, really, I hope maybe next month we can all see each other and be in the same room, but I have nothing to say. Shocking.
I'm flabbergasted. Okay, Roger.
I'm all set, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Oh, well, Angela just reminded me, I put in your places a home guide to EV charging. Certainly those that are not here, I have given extras to the planning board or planning department to throw in your packet next time. It kind of just gives you an idea of all the lingo that's used out there in the world of home charging. That's it.
All right, thank you. Jen? comments?
Nope, I'm all set.
All right. Rick Perry?
No, I have no comments. I would be interested in that EV charging information though.
Rick will go out to your house and drop it off for you.
I'll meet you at Aroma Joe's when it opens.
There you go. And then I need a good deal on an EV car.
I'm not the guy.
All right, Karen?
I was going to say, I'm interested in the stormwater training that's happening on Wednesday. So I guess I will email Doreen to sign me up.
Very good. And the other training that Eric was talking about, it isn't specifically a workshop. It is put on by MMA, and it is training for planning boards and ZBAs. So if you haven't been to one of those trainings, or it's been 5 or 6 years since you went to the last one, I do urge you to, if not get on this one, then the next one after that. Chad?
Actually, if I may, sorry, Chad. I believe Ms. Shoup and Angela will correct me if I'm wrong, but the stormwater workshop that's on Wednesday, I believe if you just go to the town calendar to the council's workshop at 5:30, I believe there's a link right there. I don't know that you necessarily need to pre-register for that one.
Okay.
It's the Board of Appeals Planning Board that needs to be
And the
pre-registered.
link is also in the email that Eric sent out today for the stormwater one that you just can click on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Both places. Find it.
Hey, I'm sorry, this is Rick Perry again. Are those both online, or are they going to be doing any in-person ones in the near future? Do we know?
They're both webinars, so they would be either via Zoom or I'm pretty sure via Zoom. And I don't know about moving to in-person in the future. I have not heard of anything from MMA on that.
I assume they're getting better attendance on Zoom, maybe.
Yeah, they're getting better attendance, and because they're offering them more frequently, anybody around the state can participate. In the past, they might offer one in southern Maine and another one in mid-coast, and then another one up in northern Maine, and you kind of had to wait for that. But now, because it's on Zoom, you have a much greater choice. And I don't think I have any comments. I've got to think about that, but no, appreciate it. We are out before 10 o'clock, and I told my husband, don't wait up, because I thought we were going to be a lot later. Very good work tonight, and thank you all. And I will call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll let you do it, Roger.
I'll second that.
No, Roger, you made the motion to adjourn. And
Did?
Rick
Okay.
Meinking is going to second.
And I'll second it for you, Roger.
Okay. Call the roll, please, Doreen.
Rachel Henderson?
Yes.
Rick Perry?
Yes.
Rick King?
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd?
Yes.
And Roger Beely?
Yes, I think.
I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.